Oh, good, this does move.
Those are the two.
Oh, you were telling me about, yes.
History.
Yes, I just heard his talk on Think Out
Right, and
Loud.
that's his first, so you're up to date, yeah.
I had to listen to it 3 different times because I caught the first part and then I was doing something else and then it came on again and it was great. So,
Are those right? Because I didn't think Thomas.
No, it's all
are
right.
they right?
I guess Robert's not here today?
nope.
No, but it does have Robert on.
Yeah, no, it's her. His name's on it, which says you need parentheses. I can, let me just take off.
Sometimes at our meeting, we move them around just
Right.
to, and put other people's names in front of each other just
And on
'cause-
video.
I know.
But usually those are watching.
Yeah.
Kind of though.
Okay.
Congratulations on your new company. That's exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited. It's gonna be fun. I'm also very excited about that to be working on
Hi.
Chris.
Hi, Chris.
full-time job.
I'm just trying to figure out how to get the chair
yeah.
up. It's too low.
So with this guy, it's basically push to top. So green means it's active.
Okay.
Green is go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. As usual, today's weather report, hot. And if you have a little sweater, it's nice and cool in here, and we welcome the calm weather inside. Good morning, I'm Dr. Laverne Lewis, TriMet's Board President, and welcome to TriMet's Board of Directors meeting for July 22nd, 2026. We are gathered here today at our favorite home of One Main Place in our TriMet boardroom, and we're also live streaming to those that are joining us on YouTube. Welcome. Correction today, we have members of TriMet board that are here, and then Director Kellogg and Director Frisbee are joining us virtually. Welcome. Thank you for being with us today, and before we proceed, I would like to call up our Safety Chief Officer, Andrew Wilson, for a safety moment. Andrew?
Good morning, TriMet Board of Directors. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. We do begin every board meeting, just like we begin all of our meetings here at TriMet, with a safety briefing. We do care about safety. It's our first priority here at TriMet. So I'm going to talk you through some of the functions in this room to keep ourselves safe as we go through today. We do have an evac route. If you go through the doors on the side that you all probably came in through, there's a staircase that will take you down to the first floor, and we gather in front of the Starbucks across the street. That's our gathering point. We also have a first aid kit and an AED in the back of the room. We have several folks in this group today that are CPR certified. Could you raise your hand if you're CPR certified? You can look around the room. We got quite a few of them today here as well, and there'll be several safety and security folks that will call 911 in the event of an emergency. So that is your safety briefing for this room. I am going to take a moment to give you a safety moment, just like we do across the organization before every meeting. Today, if you look outside, you'll notice it's pretty hazy. The air quality is actually bad in the city of Portland today. In 2020, those of you that were here, we had a huge forest fire season, and we saw a lot of smoke, which was actually quite unhealthy to be out in. During that time at TriMet, we all downloaded and forced downloaded from our IT group a app called Air Now. It's an EPA-approved app that tells you what the AQI is, the air quality index is out in the public. And it's actually city by city. So because air and air quality changes depending on even the region you're in. And the reason I say that is this is a good app for everybody here to be knowledgeable of. It's called Air Now. It's free. It's EPA approved. And it tells you what your AQI is at. This will help you protect your children, loved ones who have compromised respiratory systems like asthma, those types of things. It's a good thing for us all just to be knowledgeable about and help us protect our employees here at TriMet as well. So Air Now, that's your safety moment, and hopefully this smoke blows away today. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, Chief Safety Officer Andrew Wilson. Next, I would like to officially welcome our newest board member, Denise McGriff. Director McGriff represents District 7, which encompasses Clackamas County, West Linn, Oregon City, and Gladstone. Director McGriff brings to the board a career steeped in public service and leadership. She worked in planning and local government roles in Oregon for more than 30 years, focusing on issues including historic preservation, conservation, adaptive reuse, and transportation and land use planning. She holds 2 master's degrees from the University of Oregon in urban planning and political science in 2025, and the University School of Public Policy, Planning and Management awarded to Director McGriff as a Distinguished Alumna Award. For at least a few more months, Director McGriff will be also mayor of Oregon City, so she'll respond to mayor or director, either one, and where she leads a 5-person commission for the city for more than 3,800 people, 38,000, excuse me. Welcome, Director McGriff. Would you like to share a few words?
Thank you very much. Thank you, board members, staff, and assembled guests in the audience. Thank you so much for welcoming me here. I look forward to getting to work and literally rolling up my sleeves to do the work that needs to be done to bring District 7 back into the fold, so to speak. This position's been vacant for a while, and we are very, very excited in Clackamas County to get back into working directly with TriMet and having representation here. So I'm going to do my very best. Please feel free to reach out to me. You may just call me Denise. I prefer the informal version. So, but if there's anything I can do to assist you, please don't hesitate to call on me. I do answer my phone. So thank you very much for the warm welcome and the kind words.
Thank you, Director McGriff. We will begin now with our public forum for those who are present, and then we do have those who have signed up to testify. Members of the public who wish to provide testimony but could not be here will be joining us virtually. I think we have one or two. For those that are offering testimony, please direct your comments to TriMet and our transit-related services other than other topics. We also ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. You will note that there will be a timer indicator to help you with this request. And also you can provide, if you don't finish your written testimony, to staff, and they will make sure that each of our board members get a copy. Please also know that we definitely appreciate your testimony. If you ask questions or request additional information, it will be appropriate. The general manager will respond or have one of his staff assist you, so you can remain here and they will connect with you. Okay. At this time, let's see, I will call up two at a time. First, Chris Hudson. Is Chris Hudson here? Chris, come on down, have a seat. And Lynn Hoyt. Is Lynn Hoyt here? Nope, not yet. Okay, I'll check in a little bit again. And William Goodies? Okay. And remember to press the little emoji with the guy so that the green light comes on so we can all hear you. Okay. Chris, you may start.
Good morning. My name is Chris Hudson, and I am someone who regularly relies on TriMet service, although recently it has been less frequently. I have to admit, with all of the service reductions, TriMet is giving Lime, Biketown, and in some more extreme instances, Uber and Lyft a big revenue boost. I myself took a Lime scooter over here this morning. I'm here on behalf of myself and many of my friends and fellow citizens impacted by service reductions. I work nights, as do many of my friends, and after a certain hour, public transit options dwindle to barely any options at all. I know many people who commute, whose commutes have increased by at least an hour, sometimes 2, because of the service reductions, and there has to be another way. I know last time I was in front of the board, I suggested TriMet open their own coffee shop, but that may sound too limiting. There are many new options now, including matcha, Thai tea, Vietnamese coffee, many more drink offerings that TriMet could dabble in to get funding. And also, I'm sure it's been brought up before in front of the board, but a way to bridge lower ridership, which has often been cited, is getting rid of fares altogether. It only accounts for around 7% of TriMet's operating expenses, and removing fares will remove all of the costs associated with systems that are required to operate them. That includes the hop readers, fare inspectors, and the like. It would also be a selling point to draw more tourists into Portland, because getting around for free, everybody loves free. Going fareless would also help low-income riders and allow us to increase ridership for all. I know suggesting cutting fares is extreme, but perhaps we could increase the payroll tax, or I know negotiations are still ongoing with Tom Dundon and the new Trailblazers ownership group. Maybe TriMet could sneak in a provision that would create a new funding source for transit. It's worth a shot, since next season, hopefully, the new Ja Morant-look team will do even better. Once again, I personally feel that there is a way to not only stabilize service, but expand it and improve it for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, William? Okay.
My name is William Judice, and I am the owner of Portland Patrol. Before I say anything about today's agenda, I'd like to share an observation. Over the years, I've seen many of your board meetings, and one thing has stood out to me. People keep showing up. Sometimes they come to praise a program, sometimes they come to criticize, but they come because they care. I would encourage you not to see that as an inconvenience, but one of the greatest compliments a public body can receive. Because the day these seats are empty, the day no one comes to speak, the day no one cares enough to spend their time at this podium going over the buzzer, that's the day a public institution becomes irrelevant. You guys don't have that problem. People care deeply about TriMet, and over the past few years, I can't think of a single program that has generated more public discussion than the safety response team, and that should tell us something. 4 years ago, this board took a chance. You approved a pilot program that didn't exist anywhere else. There wasn't a national model or a proven playbook. We chose to create something new. And that gamble didn't just pay off, it transformed what an outreach program could mean to a transit agency. And today, I honestly believe, and think most of you share my belief, that there isn't another transit agency out there in America that performs outreach better than Portland. Which is what brings me here today. I'm not here simply because Portland Patrol wants to keep a contract. Contracts come and go, companies win, companies lose. That's part of public procurement. What concerns me is something else. This program has become something rare, has become something this community genuinely values. And as I thought about this process, one image comes back to me. Imagine someone hands you a beautiful handcrafted porcelain sculpture. It's unique, it's valuable, took years to create, and there's not a single other one out there like it. And now imagine someone says you have simply hours to hand it off. Could that happen successfully? Absolutely, and I sincerely hope it does. But would you toss it across the room like a basketball, simply hoping that someone catches it? Of course not. You would wrap it carefully, double box it, label it fragile, make certain every precaution has been taken before letting it out of your hands, not because you're afraid of change, but because you recognize the value of what you are protecting. And I believe that's where the board finds itself today, that stewardship not only requires courage, but wisdom to recognize when there may be more than one path forward, as shared with you last week. I'm not asking you to vote one way or another today. I'm simply asking you to remember that stewardship sometimes means slowing down long enough to make sure you've gotten it right. If there's still questions that deserve another look or concerns, don't view taking additional time as a weakness. View it as a strength. Because sometimes the strongest decision a governing board can make is recognize that something is simply too valuable to rush. My request is that you choose stewardship and that whatever decision you make today, you believe best preserves the integrity of that program and protects the people it serves. You're not simply voting on a contract, you're voting on the future of a program that this board had the vision and courage to create 4 years ago. May you have that same courage today, because years from now, people won't remember who won this contract. But they will remember whether this program continued to thrive or whether something truly special was allowed to slip away. Thank you for your time, your service, and for everything each and every one of you do for this community.
Thank you, William, and thank you, Chris. If you would like to leave your testimony copies for the board, you can leave them with Adriana. Thank you. We would greatly appreciate that. Did Lynn Hoyt arrive? No? Okay. Okay, we will now move to Lori Munkers, who is virtual. Is she ready?
Yes.
Yes, good
Can,
morning. You can go ahead, and we can hear you.
oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, allowing me to come to this. I have just a couple things that I have a concern about. I am a TriMet lift person that was approved. And that was very important to me. It was a blessing for me to get the TriMet lift. A while back, there was a policy that went through that, the drivers couldn't help you take your bags onto the bus, or they weren't supposed to help you at all with the bags. When you first go to get approved for this TriMet lift, you have to have a disability, and it seems like you have to have a pretty good disability, a strong disability, to be able to get approved. So my question is, when you go to get on the bus and the bus driver can't even help you, like maybe pick a bag up to go up the stairs, that's pretty much, to me, takes away the fact that this is a bus for the disabled people. you have to have a disability. So I get the fact that you don't want people taking on 10 bags and, bringing a couch on or something, but I don't understand why they can't help lift a bag up a couple of stairs. That would be a great help for me. I always carry my own bags, but being helped that way would be really helpful for me, just because it's very hard to get bags down the stairs all at once. You have to turn around and go back and get one. Anyway, it seems like it's more time consuming too, that they can't help with that. I just felt, I saw most of my drivers are wonderful. They would just do it anyway, but some of them didn't. And I watched a gentleman really struggle to get up the stairs, and the driver was behind him saying, "Do you know the new policy? I can't help you." And I eventually helped the gentleman because he was struggling and all he needed was a little help to get into his seat. So, anyway, that's my first concern. And the second one is, I live in an apartment that doesn't face the parking lot, so I am blessed with the map. I see a little map and I can see the car coming up the hill, or the bus. But one time I was waiting, and I had waited a long time, and they finally said that the bus had arrived or the transportation had arrived. I wasn't sure which one it was, the outside or the TriMet lift. And they came, and I could see them sitting here, and they were sitting up at the office, where is pretty far away from my building. And then all of a sudden it left, and I tried to get a hold of TriMet, and of course it was a busy time and I was put on hold. I had no way to get a hold of this person. And when I go to a doctor appointment, if I'm late for an appointment or don't show up, I get charged $50. So I was just wondering why there isn't a way to get a hold of that driver, or somehow get quicker to the driver to let them know I'm here, or you're just not coming to my apartment building number. They might not have been given that, but so anyway, that's my other concern. But TriMet Lift has been totally a blessing for me, and the employees are wonderful. They put up with me talking a lot. So
Thank you oh, go ahead.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I will pass your information on to the general manager, who will direct it to the department to follow up with you. I see her nodding her head back there. So just check your emails or phone for a follow-up. They will certainly follow up with you. Thank you. Okay, at this time, are there any other public or virtual testimonies for the board? Okay. At this time, since we have no other members signed up, I will close the public forum. We'll now proceed with our board report section of our board business meeting. I will begin by asking Director Graham to present the report from the recent meeting of the Committee on Accessible Transportation, also known as CAT. Thank you. Director Graham?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The CAT Committee had its first meeting of the fiscal year on July 15th, and we welcome 5 new committee members as well as executive committee members. The Fixed Route Subcommittee provided an update, including proposed buses on 82nd Avenue. The committee reiterated its recommendations to incorporate expanded flex space, additional mobility securement areas, and mid-door boarding for riders with disabilities, or mobility devices, into the vehicle design. And the committee leadership further reported that there is a continued rise in ADA pass-ups on TriMet bus lines, which increased 26% compared with May of the previous year, an all-time high, and 22% year over year in June. So the trend underscores the need to look at incorporating additional mobility device securement areas and spaces into specifications for the next TriMet bus fleet. Okay. The Wayfinding Subcommittee provided an update noting that Braille and raised letter tactile placards are being currently installed on Falcon devices, which convert digital transit information into audible announcements at TriMet bus stops equipped with digital displays. And this enhancement will ensure that these devices are universally accessible and usable by riders who are blind and have low vision. The committee also reported continued progress on the Braille and tactile transit center maps being developed in partnership with Portland State University, orientation and mobility program. And these are undergoing final user testing right now. An update was also provided on the 82nd Avenue Community Advisory Committee, noting that the CAT has developed a comprehensive list of recommended accessibility features and operational requirements, and the CAT universally voted to approve that list of recommendations, which has now been provided to the Community Advisory Committee and TriMet project staff for that project. Some really exciting news. I'm continued to be impressed by the innovation and forward thinking of the whole team at TriMet and the CAT. TriMet Lift has been selected as one of only a handful of transit programs nationwide to receive a $50,000 Uber Transit Innovation Fund grant to pilot an innovative first and last mile transportation program for people with disabilities. It will provide a small subset of eligible Lyft riders with fully subsidized Uber rides between their homes and nearby transit centers where they can seamlessly connect to TriMet's accessible bus and MAX network using their no-cost Honored Citizen Pass. So this pilot will really expand rider independence, improves access, and helps preserve Lyft service for riders who require curb-to-curb transportation. This also has the potential of significant cost savings. While an average one-way Lyft trip costs about $68, an Uber connection is expected to cost $6. So assuming this pilot is successful, this would be a real opportunity to expand the accessibility of the whole system for everybody who's using Lyft. And then coming up, we will be working on the FY27 work plan for CAT. So the executive committee will start working on that in August. They've asked all the subcommittees to bring their recommendations for goals and the work plan to continue to support leadership, continuity, and succession planning. And then finally, staff recognize the outstanding partnership between TriMet's rail training team, Lyft staff, Ride Connection, Oregon Commission for the Blind, in providing max familiarization training for OCB students who are newly blind. And this helps to introduce the services, make sure that they're accessible for people, and build rider confidence and independence in using the system. And finally, there was a PBOT presentation regarding its ADA Title II Public Right-of-Way Transition Plan Annual Report, and that annual report is now posted and available for public review. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. First, I'll check virtually to see if there's any questions from Director Kellogg or Director Frisbee for the CAT report. No? Okay.
No, thank you, Director Graham.
Okay. Any from our questions for our current? Okay, I see Director Flowers. No, I was looking at Director McGriff. No, your hand's up.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I was looking back to see where I wrote my question down, so you go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you so much for that update, Director Graham. My question has to do with how long we expect that Transit Innovation Grant from Uber to last us. Like, how many rides do we think roughly that will supply for our Lyft riders, and what stretch of time do we expect that money to be able to stretch over? If we have any
Can I ask
information.
Eileen to join us up here? Thank you. It's a great question.
And I should say, that's a really exciting
It's very exciting. Yeah,
piece of
it's
news,
very exciting.
yeah.
Great questions. Eileen Collins-Turvey, I'm the Director of Accessible Transportation Programs for TriMet. We expect it'll be about 7,000 rides, and the pilot goes through December. So $50,000, we have a $5,000 match that we already have in our FY27 budget, and hopefully that will really spark something in our riders, and that will be, most of our riders we see, it is that first mile with broken sidewalks, no sidewalks from their home to the transit center. So if we can bypass that barrier, it gets them connected to our amazing network of accessible vehicles.
That's incredible. And then just one other quick follow-up question. Is there something beyond the pilot program from Uber's perspective? For instance, do they have a larger pot of money that successful pilots can qualify for if things go well?
They just expanded the Innovation Fund to include more programs, and I think that's definitely something, I'm on their client advisory committee, that's definitely something that we'll pursue with them to either buy down the cost or increase the grants.
Incredible. Thank you. And congratulations again on the incredible work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director McGriff?
Yeah, thank you very much for the information. How do you see this long-term benefiting, well, I'd like to know what the opportunities and constraints are for something like this.
Absolutely. As we see more and more of our riders getting, from a Lyft perspective, getting pushed to the edges of our service area where it's more affordable for people who live on fixed incomes to live, I think the challenges will be that there are fewer transit hubs in the outlying areas. So it would be a matter of expanding the distance. Is it, right now we're planning for an up to a 2-mile trip to a transit center. So maybe we look at a 4 or 5 mile trip to a transit center if that is a tool that will work for folks. And I think that's something that we would have to, in our pocket to plan for with the metrics that we're evaluating for the pilot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Director Graham? Okay, thank you, Eileen. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Next, I will ask Director Flowers to present a report from the recent meeting of the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, also known as MPAC.
As Director McGriff just said, yeah, we're meeting again tonight. And Director McGriff, in her capacity as a mayor of Oregon City, also sits on Impact. So now we got a couple folks who are in those meetings, which is great. Let me see. So just really briefly, Metro staff briefed the committee on this Future Vision project I've been talking to you folks about for a while now, and Metro's economic development roadmap. And then the cities of Portland and Tigard presented on their growth since the region's 2040 growth concept was adopted back in 1995. I also had the opportunity personally to sit on a panel reflecting back on that 2040 growth concept alongside a couple other really brilliant folks from around the region, poking holes in what we got wrong and exploring areas that we need to get right as we start to think out over the course of the next 50 years across the region. I'm just going to briefly hit through the main things we talked about at this meeting, and then I'll pass it back to President Lewis here. So again, Future Vision Committee, Metro's leading this large-scale aspirational process to define the region's preferred vision for the next 50 years. Staff shared engagement progress to date, including a youth summit, which is getting ready to take place on August 15th at Portland State University. It's free. It's an all-day event for folks 14 to 24 to envision the region's future. I think it'd be great for young folks who ride our system to participate in that process, as transit is inevitably going to be a critical part of imagining the next 50 years of life here in the Portland metro region. We talked about the economic development roadmap. So the 2026 roadmap supports Metro Council's regional economic priorities through 3 efforts: a job-ready lands initiative to ensure adequate employment land for attracting business, priorities for the 2027 state legislative session on industrial business attraction, and a comprehensive economic development strategy developed with Greater Portland Economic Development District. So Impact will receive regular updates on all of these initiatives over the course of the next year, and we'll make sure that we're bringing that information back into this space for you all. There was also a presentation on a 2040 growth concept retrospective. So Portland and Tigard, the cities, shared how the growth concept has shaped development in their jurisdictions, highlighting greater density, expanded housing choices, and improved transportation options along designated corridors and centers. I'll just add here that there's also, this broader discussion of, again, gaps, things that we've gotten wrong, populations that have been displaced, and the areas geographically that those populations have been scattered to. It's quite interesting to look at some of those growth maps that Metro has put together. So I'd highly encourage folks in this space to take a peek at those. I think they'll necessarily inform the way we think about the future of our system here as well, especially as we try to tailor our system to serving the riders who need it most. So that information is invaluable from Metro. And then I think the last thing here is that this is all very timely because Metro, again, is getting ready to adopt a new future vision in the year 2027. And as Director McGriff said at the beginning of this, Impact is meeting again tonight from 5 to 7 p.m. Thanks.
Did you want to mention the RTP?
Excellent, thank you,
Would you
JT.
want
Are
to?
there any questions or comments?
Director McGriff asked if I wanted to mention the RTP, but I would love if you talked a bit about it.
As you know, Metro has many, many processes, and so they are beginning to talk about the regional RTP. In Clackamas County, we are working with the county as they update their RTP. Many of the jurisdictions in District 7 already have adopted regional transportation plans, and now we're trying to get the county to integrate our wishes into their plan, and that's a little bit of a road to hoe, but I think what we need to pay attention to from the TriMet perspective and from all of our jurisdictions in our district perspective is how TriMet needs to play a more pivotal role in the development of that particular document through them. So that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you, that's important. Any other questions for Director Flowers? Okay. Anything from our board members online? Yes. Okay, Director Frisbee.
Thank you. This is maybe more of a comment. For now, our two members, I know only one of whom officially represents TriMet on the Impact Board, but I know one of the things we've talked about in this context is how we both use the RTP and the 2040 or 2050 vision process. What's the future vision process? To think big picture about the future of transit, what, this region has in many ways built its economic development plan around transit for the past 40 years. How do we think about the next 40 years? What role does transit play in that economic development work? What role does transit play in the lives of folks every day? What role does it play in our environmental goals and our affordability goals? And how do we, so I think we've all talked about what transit looks like post-COVID in this new environment. How can we use these processes to help further that conversation? And I guess I would just put it to both of you that if there are ways your fellow board members can be helpful in that conversation or ways that we can support you in that, please let us know.
Okay, thank you, Director Frisbee. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Director
Yes, thank you.
McGriff.
Yes, thank you. So one of my favorite topics, I think that what she has stated is absolutely correct. Part of the issue is that, we have a tiered process. So we know that the transportation package is, well, I don't know where it is in the legislature right now, so it's a big guess right now. But that is going to play a role in what happens. And I know that there's the sides of that particular process where we want it more transit-oriented, and then there's the side that says, let's build more roads. I don't think we have the option of, at this point in time, of actually building more roads. We need to fix the roads that we already have, and that's where some of the funding has to go. Then there's the whole trickle-down process of the funding with the state wanting to, there's been discussion about reallocating the gas tax, and I know that many of the cities and counties are totally against that because we use those funds to help supplement our road funds. So it's a partnership. So we have to make sure that they understand that. But we also need to make sure that the legislature understands what a pivotal role transit is going to play in everything that happens in the state. So we have to kind of keep our eyes on all of these transportation balls that are up in the air that we don't know what's happening at the state level. So that's just what I wanted to add to that because it's on the top of mind, at least for all of the cities. I know at in August and in September, the League of Oregon Cities and the Oregon Mayors Association are going to be discussing those. Thank you.
Director Flowers?
No, and just to add to what Director McGriff just shared and what Tyler was getting at there, I think particularly when we focus in on the state context, our partnership with transit agencies across Oregon is going to be absolutely critical. So I think it's very easy for us to get siloed into a very myopic way of thinking about our political strategy and rooting it almost entirely in the region, especially given the fact that there, are competing viewpoints on what TriMet should look like between the three counties that form our service district at present. But when we go down to Salem, if we can't bring the folks down in the Rogue Valley with us, if we can't bring the folks down in Eugene with us, if we can't bring all of the many transit agencies that comprise this broader statewide network to bear on an aligned position, I think we're going to struggle to get what we want. So just making sure that that's not lost in the shuffle as we think about our strategy for the 27th session.
Thank you. Excellent discussion. Excellent. I see the general manager taking plenty notes. Thank you for that discussion on where we go from here. Next, I'll turn to Director Kellogg for his report from the Accountability Committee. Director Kellogg.
Thank you, President Lewis. Good morning to everyone else. Want to acknowledge our new Director McGriff. I would say welcome, but I've already done that. She jumped in with both feet last week to meet with me and Commissioner Savas to discuss issues in Clackamas County. So again, glad to have you with us. The Accountability Committee met on June 24th. First item of business was from Darlene Graham, who's TriMet Senior Internal Audit Officer, provided a review of the 2025 Ethics Point Hotline reports. Overall, there were 13 total reports, which is 2 fewer than in 2024, and all of those were resolved. Next, Dan McGuire, who's the Senior Analyst of Information Governance, provided a review of 2025 public record requests to TriMet. We received a record of those in 2025 by about 100. And as those of you who've been to the Security Operations Center understand, a lot of those requests were for camera footage for incidents that didn't even involve TriMet, but were close enough to our cameras to have potentially recorded some useful information. The committee then continued conversations about updating TriMet's website. Right now, there is an accountability and transparency page, but that has been suggested and approved to be moved to a different place on the website. All the same information will be contained there, and it's everything you've ever wanted to know about TriMet, from finances to performance to public records requests and other items of accountability. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 27th, and I will happily take any questions on my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any questions for Director Kellogg? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Director Kellogg. Normally at this time, I would move to Director Kim to provide a report from the Finance and Audit Committee. They did not meet, and the report will be shared with us this morning from Nancy during the General Manager's report. Thank you, Director Kim. All right. Next, I'll turn to board announcements. Real quickly, I would like to ask Director Frisbee if she has a report on the Governor's Visioning Committee in her capacity as a liaison to this committee. Director Frisbee?
Thank you so much, President Lewis. The committee met last week. This was our week to hear from legislators. So we had a great bipartisan panel with some key legislators from the Joint Committee on Transportation. We heard pretty disparate views, I would say, and I think it was a good illustration of the challenge ahead of this group and ahead realistically of the legislature. We did, Senator Starr was very clear that he's really focused on a back to basics approach and specifically mentioned he doesn't see transit as part of those basics. I think the other members of the panel, Representative McLean, Senator Gamba, Senator Pham, were clearer that they believe that when we think about transportation, it's not just how we move people by car, it's how we move everyone. And transit is a key part of that from their perspective. But it's clear there's a fair amount of work that we need to do, both in helping make the economic development case for transit, and in making the sort of integral part of transportation case when it comes to the legislature. I think the other part that's tricky is there's a lot of what I would say is fear on the part of the legislators, having just gone through the referendum process on the bill they passed last year. And there was some sort of, well, we're going to wait and see what this work group comes up with. And our chair, Chair Carnican, did a great job in sort of reminding them we're not a legislative body. We are intended to advise the governor on what a transportation vision could look like. And we hope that what we bring forward as Oregonians who care about the system helps give them a bit of a roadmap and a framework to work from. But at the end of the day, it is the legislature's job to develop and deliver a package. And there are trade-offs and negotiations and things that can only be done in a legislative body. So the work continues. It's not boring right now.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. Are there any questions? I do have one, and then Director Graham. Are you at liberty to share with us? Oh, is she still there? Oh, there. Are you at liberty to share some of the fears? I mean, just samples? I mean, I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, I mean I think they feel very anxious having just had a referendum pull back their package with an 82% disapproval from the public. I would argue that that number represents sort of a lack of understanding of what was needed and what was happening and what people were getting for the package, and doesn't necessarily represent an animosity towards transportation in general. It just represents a lack of understanding. But as a legislator, 82% is a big number that makes you anxious. And these are big questions. We know, regardless of what is in the package, it will have to include new revenue. We know it will have to include trade-offs. We have, I think, 400 years worth of bridge maintenance if we continue at the current rate of maintenance for our state bridges. So even if you speed that up, you're still not getting to every bridge in any sort of reasonable time frame. So those are real concerns for legislators, and I understand that.
Okay, thank you for sharing, and thank you for your time and energy on the committee. Director Graham?
Thank you. I just had a question. Was the future of the state and the fact that we have such an aging population ahead of us discussed at all? I mean, we're looking at a future where we have a growing older adults and people with disabilities who will need to access the system, and that will be their only option. And is that in the discussion at all?
It is briefly mentioned, but it is not really embedded in the conversation. And it's been something, I know TriMet's been trying to bring that up in the transit subcommittee group. Myself, I've been trying to bring it up in the larger context. It's 1 in 4 Oregonians cannot drive. And so that's a really important, those are really important people who need to be served. And I think, but no, to your bigger point, I think that is not something that is getting traction. And I think there's a huge opportunity for advocates and representatives of older Oregonians to start to emphasize that and push that more with the governor, frankly, as well as with legislators.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director McGriff?
Yes, thank you for your sacrifice in serving on this committee. What I'm hoping that, obviously this group is bipartisan, and that it's looking at the state of Oregon as a collective rather than this party or that party. And I think what concerns me is that the recommendations that are going to come out of this committee are going to get dropped into the acidic pot of the legislature. And I'm not saying that I don't think that they are capable of coming up with a plan, but I think what I worry about is that they're not looking at it from a global perspective. It's, this party versus that party. And I'm not sure how the committee can emphasize that more than it needs to, well, it needs to be emphasized a lot, that they really need to look at this as a collective. This is part of our future. This is part of the economic vitality of the state, and how do we get out of the boxes of, back to basics. I mean, I think Senator Starr has some good points, and I had a lovely interview with him, and I took to heart some of the things that he said. However, his public side said the complete opposite of, what came out at the session. So, thank you, and if there is a way that the committee can suggest that, once the recommendation comes out, that other groups can get behind this so that there is a broad base of support for where we need to go. I mean, we really have to stop looking at it from this silo and that silo. It's got to be, our future is at stake here.
Yeah, I think you have sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of the challenge, the political challenge in front of this space. There are folks on both sides who see an opportunity to make a political point with, instead of tackling needed policy and programmatic challenges. And transportation has never been enough of a public darling that it forces people to the table. And so I think, to your point, that's part of what this agency has to do. That's part of what mayors get to do and county leadership gets to do. And hopefully people across the state get to do is show up and say, a solution to this really matters, and we need you to work together and find a way to do this. I believe that there are legislators, and I believe everyone we heard from on the panel, I believe, is a legislator who actually cares about this problem and wants to make really important changes and really needed changes. And we have to give them the space and the room to do that. And I think we can do that by, to your point, making it clear how critical this is, how important this is right now.
Okay, thank you. Director Flowers?
Yeah, thank you for that, Tyler. I also think we need to give them the ammunition necessary to do that, right? And a big part of that is articulating a different case for what transit means to this state. I'm particularly interested by everything that happened in the Rogue Valley down in Jackson and Josephine County over the course of the past, 6 or so months, right? They had, at the same time as this gas tax measure was going on the ballot and was voted down at a 82% clip, they repassed what, I'm sorry, why am I blanking on the word? They extended,
Renewed.
reauthorized. Thank you so much, Director McGriff. Reauthorized their transit tax in that region. And this is a primarily conservative region of the state. There is an ability of everyday folks to decouple transportation from transit. And I don't think we're necessarily served by continuing to bunch ourselves together with transportation writ large. Of course, we necessarily have to play a role in that broader conversation because both of them will be discussed in the same voice down in Salem. But I think there are economic arguments we can make, not only about the impact of transit-oriented development and all these good other good things, but when we think about ratepayers on roads, they also benefit from transit in direct ways. I haven't really necessarily seen us as an agency start to articulate the tie-in between transit access and freight throughput through critical corridors, time reliability for the delivery of goods and services. I think we can speak to the core concerns of the entire state if we're more focused on the way we identify and articulate the economic benefits of transit beyond just the human benefits.
Thank you, Director Flowers. Thank you all, the directors. And Director Frisbee, thank you again for your report. Any others? Seeing none? Okay. At this time, now we will turn to our general manager for his monthly report. And again, thank you, directors, for the discussion on, for Tyler Frisbee's report. General Manager Dessou.
First, good morning, President Lewis, members of the board. Also welcome our new board member, Director McGriff. Thank you, community partners, for being here with us, TriMet staff, the public. I do want to noticed Sheriff Marcy O'Donnell. She's with us today in the audience. Also with Chief Jordan is in the audience with us. So thank you for being here. So Board, in my report this morning, I want to touch bases on the start of the fiscal year 2027 budget efforts. We're going to review our ridership data from June. We're going to go over my performance deliverables for last year, and that's FY26. And then I'll provide a 12-month outlook on my priorities for TriMet. And while we are navigating the incredible difficult times that we're talking about, we must not lose sight of our commitment to celebrate our world-class employees. This morning, I'll introduce you to an outstanding member of our Maintenance of Way team whose innovations were recently featured on one of the region's most popular news programs, Good Day America, or Good Day Oregon. Not America. Yeah, maybe next. Yeah, Good Morning America. So I'm going to begin this morning with perseverance. TriMet has overcome so much in our 56-year history, from extreme weather to civil unrest to societal crises, a recession, and then a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and much more. Those were defining moments for us. And now we are in another, as we just talked about. We must address our long-term budget deficit through pursuit of new revenue streams and by bringing our spending in line with our resources. The largest staffing reduction in TriMet history is now underway. It is absolutely heartbreaking, and I want to repeat that. It's heartbreaking, but the sad reality is that our ridership has stabilized at rates lower than before the pandemic, and yet the size of our agency is larger than it was before it. So you take that coupled with our increased cost facing public transit agencies and revenues not keeping up means that we must resize our agency and refocus our agency. So inside our agency and out, we may look different, we may be different, but what remains unchanged is the role that we provide to this region. TriMet is the heart, the absolute heart of our community, and we will continue to serve this region with pride and dedication. So with that, I want to give you just a short, brief update on currently where our budget's at, but I do want to tell you that next month, I am going to be moving forward with a strategic session with the board that I'll talk about to where we're going to take a deep dive together to talk about our budget deficit. So with that, Nancy, if you would go ahead and come forward to provide an update on the budget.
Hi, good morning. Okay, so what we're going to talk about this morning, and many of you have already heard this, but with one new board member, we're going to take a little bit more time. So today we're going to talk about the budget scorecard updates and where we're at with the adoption of the 2027 budget. Advance, please.
Right. Nancy, could you pull your mic a little closer?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, got it? All right. So up in front of you is our budget balancing scorecard. We have a 3-year plan within which to balance the budget. We have been working on this plan now for a couple years. Up at the top is the target, right? That red box, that's what we're targeting. We're looking to solve on average, $245 million per year. And that plan is to look at spending reductions, service cuts, new revenue sources, and then there's still a remaining gap that's going to fall into one of those above buckets. When you look at the blue box, that's where we've rolled up our sleeves, we've put pen to paper, and we've really dug into what are those spending reductions, service cuts, and potential new revenues. The green box represents what we have implemented today. Now we're going to break those down one at a time. Advance, please. As you look at the spending reductions, again, our target was to look at an overall, on average, spending reduction of $128 million a year. What we have implemented today includes divisional cuts. In fiscal year 2027, that impact is $49 million. and over a 10-year horizon, that's 65 million on average. We have eliminated our vacation payout program for 2027. That is $2 million savings. We've also, because of the debt issuance that we just went through at the beginning of June, and because of the way it was structured, as well as the refunding, on average, in 2027, that's a $2 million savings. So far, within the spending reductions, we've identified and implemented 52 million over the course of the whole 10 years. That's 68 million. On the left-hand side, you can see the gold bar, which is the 120 million target, and then on the right, that 68 million that has been implemented. So some of the things to think about as we look at our spending reduction, and a big impact is fuel. And as we look at the fuel costs continue to fluctuate. They continue to rise due to the conflict in Iran. TriMet consumes about 100,000 gallons a week in fuel. Just last week, we paid $4.21 a gallon, where we've budgeted $3.70 a gallon. And as you know, the budget and the forecast go hand in hand, and once a year we have to put a pin in it and say that's the budget. But 10 minutes later, because things change, right, they fluctuate, specifically fuel costs, it will ebb and flow through the end of the year. We continue to monitor, and we receive weekly updates on those fuel costs, and we look at the impact to the budget. If during the year we determine that those costs are not going to go down, we will come to the board in January and ask for a budget transfer. Advance, please. As we look at the service reductions, as you're well aware, you approved a service change that will go into effect here later this fall. We're targeting 27 million in savings from service changes, and to date, we have implemented, or will be implemented here by the end of this calendar year, 19 million of those. That includes the changes that was made in November of 25, changes in March of 26, and then those changes that go into effect this fall. Advance, please. As we look at new revenue, we're targeting at least 45 million in new revenue. That can come from our existing revenues, an increase in either our payroll tax or fares, or it could be a new revenue source yet to be determined and implemented. At this time, there is nothing that's been implemented. We've not brought anything before you for approval at this time. Advance, please. So what does this all mean as we look at the entire scorecard? We ended fiscal year 2026 with a 245 million deficit. We have decreased our spending on average by 68 million and taken 19 million in service changes. That has decreased our deficit by 87 million, taking us into fiscal year 2027 with a projected deficit of 158 million. Advance, please. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Again, I want to just make sure I let the board know that at our September strategic session, we're gonna have a very deep dive into the budget with you. So wanted to just put that on the table.
Director McGriff?
Yes, will these slides be available?
Yes, they will be in your board portal.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
So now turning to ridership. Ridership continues to trend up slightly in June over our previous year. We've provided 5.6 million rides last month, and that's up more than 53,000 from June of 2025. And that was driven largely by an increase on bus, which was up 2.8%. Unexpectedly, Mike's ridership was down by 2.7%. And then West ridership was also up year over year. As for our monthly operations analysis report, for time, we're going to forego a presentation with our analysts this month, but it has been uploaded into your board portal. Also, for the monthly safety and security report, we will have that as part of your briefing later today in today's meeting. Now I'd like to move and invite Alan Lato to please come up, our Executive Director of Planning. He's going to report on deliverables assigned to me by the board for the past year, and that's fiscal year 2026. So, Alan, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. President and directors, Alan Leto, Executive Director of Planning. And the document that I'll be referring to was in your packet, the large table with colors on the last column. And I'll just talk through these fairly quickly, but feel free to stop me at any point. These were the deliverables that were assigned for this past fiscal year. So this is a look back at FY26. And the first, each of these has a deliverable, some targets, and then the results in the final column. The first deliverable was around continuing to fully develop and implement TriMet 2030. There were several targets there in terms of developing and then starting implementation and continuing on those. Each of those is complete with the efforts underway. We are taking a little bit of a slow moment on that for right now during the layoffs, but we'll reaccelerate in the summer. But we're definitely making a lot of progress during FY26. The second one, enhance safety through presence on the system. There are 3 elements there. Each of those is complete. There's a security management plan complete with the fare evasion, as you heard, I think last month or the month before, coming down. The measures of looking at rider perception set and being tracked, and the addition of 9 additional transit police officers with continuing efforts on those as well. Number 3 was the customer experience and a variety of different targets for there, including cleaning. All of those were met or exceeded. Safety, those 2 were met or exceeded, or actually below, since in that case, low was good. For service reliability for Bus, Max, and Wes, we exceeded those targets, but for Lyft, we were below that. And that one is colored red rather than green to denote the fact that that was not complete as expected. And then the customer experience journey map, that was completed and identified work plan elements. Our ability to work on those will be explored in the upcoming years. Number 4 is around the strategic financial plan for financial performance and decision-making. So you of course passed the FY27 budget that was compliant with Oregon budget law, so that was complete. The second, the long-range state of good repair funding strategy, is really marked as partially met. In the forecast, there is additional funding for state of good repair, but we do not have the complete funding repair strategy and don't feel like we really can until we stabilize, or at least as part of stabilizing the overall budget in the next few years. The budget cuts, as you heard from Sam, we were in the middle of the layoffs and reductions that are a big part of that. So those were identified and begun. And then finally, the compliance with the strategic financial plan which is complete for FY27. Sorry, for FY26, demonstrated by the FY27 budget. Number 5 was to develop processes and tools to advance asset management, and we've completed both of those. The strategy team has been working under 2030, and we do have a plan and funding in place for the analysis of return on investment on a maintenance management system, which is a huge issue for big transit agencies like us. Number 6, develop, deliver technology and process modernization program. There were 4 elements to that: a high-level roadmap, a process for determining fitness for purpose. We have to treat software differently than we do, I don't know, the quality of rail or something, because it's a very different item. Completing at least 50% of the initial assessment and identify areas to reduce cost. Each of those complete during the fiscal year. Number 7 was around engaging riders, stakeholders, and community in service changes to ensure voices are heard. 2 specifics there in terms of holding the the venues to be able to have those kinds of community and stakeholder communications and ways to respond. All of those complete, especially with the fairly substantial changes that we made to some of the proposed service cuts in response to feedback that we got from the community and from stakeholders. Number 8 then, complete commissioning on the Type 6 light rail vehicles and specifically identified 26. Happy to report that we had 29 of those in operation by the end of the fiscal year. Number 9 was establish a culture of continuous improvement, which is of course a very long-range effort. Culture changes slowly and takes a lot of effort, but we made progress and completed the 3 target items to be able to begin that process. Number 10 and number 11 are both about FX projects. Number 10 is the 82nd Avenue. That was to advance design and issue notice to proceed for project garage and vehicles complete. Those are all approved and underway, and you may remember approving the vehicles and the hydrogen recently. For TV Highway, we had the application to enter project development and the LPA, locally preferred alternative, and the RTP, which was talked about earlier. All of those are complete as well. And then there were 3 identified items specifically to the general manager, the first around shaping and influencing, and those around building strong relationships with multiple partners across the region. Those were completed. Number 13, maintaining positive board relations, a series of deliverables on those and each of those complete. And then finally, number 14, around personal development and leadership, both of those complete as well. So an overall positive look. There were several of those items I called out that are shown in different color here, but a overall sense of the completion of these deliverables for FY26. Happy to take any questions.
All right, Alan, thank you. Really appreciate that. So board, as we look ahead, I want to update you on our priorities for the next 12 months. At its core, this is about rebuilding TriMet's foundation. So we're positioning to build a stronger future for our riders and our employees and the region that we serve. This isn't a new direction. It's about sharpening our focus during one of the most important periods in our history. Today, I'd like to briefly cover 6 things. 1, how TriMet 2030 strategic plan continues to guide us. The value that TriMet brings to this region every single day. The financial reality that we're facing, where we will focus our energy over the next year, and how we're going to work with our partners to move forward. And then finally, why I'm confident and where we are headed. So whenever we talk about budgets, service levels, financial sustainability, I think it's important to begin with why this work matters. While I know that you know this, there may be those in the audience that do not. So I think it's necessary to really set the context. For more than 57 years, TriMet has been connecting people to opportunity, where we've provided more than 3 billion rides since our agency was created. Every week, roughly 1.3 million trips begin on a TriMet train or a bus. Those aren't just numbers. Those are people getting to work, students getting to school, someone making it to an interview, families reaching medical appointments, friends getting together, lives moving forward. Last year alone, we provided more than 68 million rides. More than 90% of the jobs in our district are within a half mile of transit. That's over 880,000 jobs connected by our system. And more than 1/3 of the people we surveyed told us they rely on TriMet for most of their transportation. That tells us something important. Transit isn't simply a transportation service, it's an economic engine. It makes the region more affordable and part of what makes the region works. TriMet 2030 strategic plan continues to be our roadmap. It provides our vision, our goals, our direction that will guide this agency over the next several years. What has changed is the urgency around one particular part of the plan. So simply put, our costs continue to grow faster than our revenues. So while every goal in our strategic plan remains important, the next 12 months is going to require us to concentrate on one overriding priority. And you heard it this morning, protect and service. I want to state that again, protect and service, and put in TriMet on a sustainable financial plan and path. So within the strategic plan, that means placing particular emphasis on strategies that support the overriding priority of protect and service by putting TriMet on a sustainable financial path. So they say you should say it 7 times so that we all take it in. So that's 3 times that I've stated that. 2 of the key strategies are strengthening our fiscal efficiency and transparency, such as we are resizing the agency by eliminating 400 positions. We will continue to improve our communications with the region, our riders, the board, and media, where we are with our budget deficit and the steps that we're going to be taking to solve this deficit. We're also pursuing new and sustainable sources of revenue. We will be going to the legislature with an ask of an increase in payroll tax. Although we expect to make progress on multiple strategies, these strategies will shape many of our decisions we make over the coming year. And to make that happen, we need to effectively tell our story about TriMet's value in the region. So if you look at the map there, we've outlined the strengthening of our physical efficiency with the highlighted areas, how we're going to explore, and then how over on the value that we bring to the region, how we're going to proactively engage and collaborate with our regional partners and stakeholders. Telling that story is we are going to increase our focus on the 2 strategies of advancing that region or advancing our value to the region by proactively engaging and collaborating with our regional partners and stakeholders. We're going to immediately start to renew, build, and rebuild our relationships with the region. And the other is really sharing our story on positive contributions for our riders and the region. And then finally, the last strategy that you see there is, again, to protect service by putting TriMet on a sustainable financial path, is advancing the 2030 strategy of establishing a culture of continuous improvement. And that's driving innovation, identifying inefficiencies, and this is very important for TriMet to demonstrate fiscal stewardship and improve our efficiency. The financial challenge that we are facing isn't unique to TriMet. Transit agencies across Oregon, you just heard Director Flowers talk about Rogue Valley. Across Oregon, and I have colleagues across this country, are dealing with the rising costs, the revenue that simply hasn't kept pace, and then at the same time, our communities have changed. Travel patterns have evolved. People are riding differently than they did just a few years ago. And our riders and our partners are asking us to provide service in a different way. So we can't just keep simply doing what we've always done. We must adapt. That means becoming more efficient. It means reshaping our service where appropriate. It means resizing parts of our organization. It means pursuing new revenue that allows us to continue to deliver those services our community rely on us. But here's something equally important to the board. We cannot accomplish that by ourselves. So we need you. We need you. We need our public. We need our riders that's here. We need you as we move forward because the future of transit in this region is going to depend on partnerships. It will be required that business leaders, community organizations, local governments, elected officials, and our riders work together towards a common goal. A lasting funding solution are built through broad regional support. So I want to talk a little bit about what success looks like over this next 12 months. It begins with one clear focus, and that's to implement comprehensive financial strategies that protect service while balancing our budget for long-term sustainability. That includes making difficult choices to resize our organization, to improve efficiency, to operate as lean as possible, and we're going to aggressively pursue additional revenue. And that's include working with all of our partners on a funding ask for the transportation package during the 2027 legislative session, and also other regional and federal revenue opportunities we're going to proceed. Our government affairs team, our internal revenue generating teams are exploring every viable option that can provide long-term sustainability. How we're going to accomplish this work is just as important as what we're going to accomplish. For me, it comes down to two things. One, relationships, and the customer experience. First, I want to talk a little bit about relationships. We're going to continue to be transparent about where we are financially. We're going to openly share the difficult decisions that we're making and the efficiencies we're implementing. We're going to continue to listen to our partners, learning from other agencies, and working together to identify better ways of doing business. We'll also continue to tell our stories better and why transit matters, because good transit strengthens our economy. It supports housing affordability, it connects employers with workers, it reduces congestion as we move forward, and it creates opportunity. And we will also be honest about consequences if sustainable funding isn't secured. Those aren't easy conversations, but they are necessary ones. And at the same time, everything we do has to preserve the experience of our riders every day. That means continuing to invest in safety, maintaining reliable service, keeping our system in good repair, and continuing to reshape service based on what riders need today, not what they needed 5 years or 10 years ago. I'll close with this. When I moved to Portland several years ago, one of the things that really struck me immediately was how deeply transit was woven into the fabric of this region. I said when I moved here, it was my utopia. It was my transit utopia. We serve this region through recessions, through natural disasters, through a global pandemic. The last 6 months have been one of the most difficult times for me, with the elimination of 400 positions of our agency. And I want to be clear to the public. I did not come here to lead this organization to downsize our service or downsize our organization. So the next 12 months, there's fire in my belly. There's fire in the belly of this executive team and this board. The next 12 months will not be easy, but some of our decisions ahead will be difficult, but also necessary, because what we're doing isn't simply balancing the budget. We are strengthening the foundation that will allow TriMet to continue to serve this region for generations to come. So what's next? On Friday of this week, I'm going to provide the board with my next 12-month goals for review and approval. I'm going to be working with the board to immediately schedule an upcoming board strategy session this fall, preferably September, to discuss scenarios to address the budget deficit, including our current financial picture with the August service reductions and the elimination of the 400 positions. I'm going to provide you with a strong recommendation on how we can solve the budget deficit, and we'll have conversations around that. We will review our latest on efforts to go after more revenue. We're going to talk about how we're going to approach the transportation package. We're going to talk about how we're going to build coalitions that's going to move forward to go to Salem and have conversations. We're going to chart the path forward on renewing, rebuilding, improving our relationships with our partners. We're going to assess what our constituents and our partners' needs are as we move forward. I believe this region understands that a strong transit system is essential to our future. And if we stay focused, we work together, and we continue to earn the public's trust, I'm confident that we will emerge stronger than we are today. So thank you. And that was very heartfelt to all of you.
Would you take questions now, or
Please.
do you want us after your other last presentation? Okay now?
I'll do it now
Okay.
because we're going to do a recognition
Right, okay.
afterwards.
Director Flowers?
Yeah, General Manager Dessou, just wanted to say thank you. I don't think it's lost on any of us how deeply you care about not only this system, the people who run this agency, and the people that we serve. So just thank you for your heartfelt commitment to the work that we do here. I know that transit has played a critical role for you throughout your entire life. This isn't just a profession. This is something you've lived and breathed. You've been on the other end of decisions like the ones that we're having to make right now. I know that has had a deep impact on the way that you see this, on the way that you've related to family, on your mother's ability to get around. So I really just want to say how much we appreciate you and see you in this moment. I can't imagine how difficult it's been for you to be sitting in this seat during this time. So just want to acknowledge that. I did want to say a couple of things here. You know, we talk about the floor, and I've said this privately in internal meetings. I just think it's important for us to state it amongst this group as well. I think we've done a really good job articulating what the floor looks like in this moment. What I'm hopeful of is that this can also present an opportunity for us to articulate what a better ceiling could look like. What does a world-class transit agency look like in the Portland metro region? And how can we leverage this moment of reimagination to start building something bigger rather than just trying to maintain as much of what we currently have as humanly possible? And I think we're seeing examples of this type of thinking across the state. Again, I've shared this internally. One of the examples I'm inspired by right now is Southern Oregon University down in Jackson County. They are going through a cataclysmic event in their history as an institution, right? Historic cuts that have required the state to step in and provide emergency stopgap funding to keep the university from literally shuttering. But in the midst of having to eliminate entire departments, of having to lay off staff, of having to reduce their version of service to the community that relies on them, they've also created something I find deeply inspiring. They created something called a vitality plan, and they outlined a three-pronged approach to completely reconfiguring and reimagining what the university could look like. Not just balancing their budget, not just seeking out new revenue, but saying, what does it look like for us to fundamentally exist in a different way that is suited to the times? And for that vision to be rooted in aspiration rather than survivalism. I would hope that we could continue to push ourselves internally and externally to have that discussion in the midst of this moment that we're in. There's another piece that I think is important for us to acknowledge. I think our relationships could be stronger, particularly in the public sector. You know, I'm heartened by the addition of Director McGriff to the board. I think that we're going to need to continue to work as a collaborative here to strengthen our political footprint in a moment that's going to require us to really institute a full court press at several different levels of government, at the city of Portland, at all 3 counties, at Metro, and at the state of Oregon. And then I think there's another point here, which is this notion of increasing public trust by being lean and efficient. I think that increases trust amongst our public sector elected partners. Doesn't necessarily increase trust amongst the general public. So I just want us to be cognizant of trying to balance the trust that we're investing in, right? And making sure that we hold trust in both arenas simultaneously, because we're gonna have to do a balancing act if we hope to successfully navigate the moment that we're in. And then the last piece here is I love this idea of a strategy session coming together. My push would be that we do so sooner rather than later. I know August is right around the corner, but I think it would be extremely beneficial for us to have that internal discussion as a board prior to legislative days down in Salem, which takes place on September 10th. So if we could get to some sort of alignment, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that concept, but I would love to meet in August rather than September, if at all possible. But let me just end by saying, again, thank you, Sam. We appreciate you, we see you, and we're really grateful that this agency is led by you.
Thank you, Director Flowers. Director Frisbee?
I just wanted to follow up as well, and Sam, say that that is one of the clearer and more impassioned speeches I've heard from you on the space we are now. And I think, I don't mean to speak for the rest of my board members, but speaking for myself, I think that was an incredibly well done layout of where we are and where we need to go in the next 12 months. So I just want to take a moment to say how much I appreciated that articulation of it. And I think the focus on the relationships piece, that is integral to what we are doing right now. And it is really understandable that a lot of our relationships have suffered over the past 5 years as we have just fully focused on keeping the agency functional and alive during the pandemic. And this is our moment to rebuild our relationships and rebuild the role that we play in the region. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm just going to keep hammering this. We have, as you said, we have been an integral part of every part of this region's strategy, whether it's economic development, whether it's affordability, whether it's our environmental goals, whether it's our quality of life goals. We have been a part of every single one of those regional efforts for the past 57 years. The question now is, where are we for the next 57? How do we show up? What do we need? How does what we deliver look different while still meeting the needs of the people and the entities of this region? And so I appreciate you articulating that, and I really appreciated your comments today, and I want to just take a moment in gratitude.
Okay, thank you, Director Frisbee, and thank you, Director Flowers. Sam?
And I'll say that, thank you, board. We can't do any of that without our world-class employees. Today, I'm going to introduce to you one of those employees whose innovation and creativity have been great for TriMet and for his colleagues. His name is Sean Hall, as he works on our Maintenance of Way team. Now, Maintenance of Way, or MOW, as we call it, employees do just what the name says. They do maintenance upkeep on the right-of-way of our light rail system. But Good Day Oregon's Tony Martinez, who most of us know, found out that Sean Hall takes his work home with him, where he turns his garage into a toy shop of sorts for heavy machinery. So please play the tape.
When you think about TriMet, visions of trains and buses might come to mind, but behind those modes of transportation are the teams and machines that keep things moving.
Tony has more in today's All New Behind the Wheel.
If you can run an RC car, like a child's RC car, you can run this thing.
This thing is called the Green Climber. and it's just one of many specialized tools at the disposal of TriMet's Maintenance of Way department.
So the Green Climber is a remote control machine that cuts brush and takes down blackberries on TriMet property all over our system.
It's the perfect solution for clearing brush and vegetation growing in hard-to-reach places and embankments along the MAX tracks.
Normally, this area would take us about 3 weeks for 3 employees, and we did it in 1 day with this machine.
Of course, all that saves TriMet time, money, and many hours of hard work.
I used to be the guy out here, one of the guys doing this, and it was brutal.
Wow.
So it's gotten a lot better now.
Are you ever tempted to take it home?
I think everybody is tempted to take them home.
But where TriMet Maintenance of Way workers really shine is when they take off-the-shelf equipment and modify it for specific TriMet applications. That's exactly what happened with the Chameleon, which is basically a giant pressure washer on rails.
So the trains have steel wheels and they ride on steel rails. And when the rails are wet, you have issues with traction. So it's like driving your car in the snow and you don't have any traction. So some people throw sand down to move their car. Well, the trains do the same thing.
Over time, that sand builds up. The Chameleon is used to clear it.
They have a large brush, and then they have 2 small brushes that actually go along and clean those girder rails out.
But that wasn't what the Chameleon was designed to do, at least not until Sean got a hold of it. He figured there had to be a better way than clearing the rails by hand.
If there's a safer, easier, faster way of doing something, it saves money and it's more productive.
So he took the Chameleon home, set everything up in his garage, and got to work.
I built it at home on my free time. I just like to make things easier and safer, and I get to have a little fun on this at the same time. So the main ones kick out to the side.
That kind of creativity and innovation are just the beginning of what makes TriMet Maintenance of Way workers so valuable.
I think that when people see this system, they see buses and trains, and they don't understand all the infrastructure that goes along with that.
If drivers and operators are the face of TriMet, the men and women in the maintenance department and their amazing machines are the muscle.
The operators definitely have a difficult job, and my hat's off to them for sure. But the maintenance folks, kind of the unsung heroes that get a lot of work done and
keep things moving.
Yeah.
Tony Martinez, Fox 12 Oregon.
Who knew? Who knew? My jaw dropped. The part where he said he took it home and just created this thing.
But I mean,
That's
hats
amazing.
off to him, to Sean, but also to TriMet for having the vision to say, go for it.
Yeah.
If you can make it better, do it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
about 30% of TriMet's workforce is involved in maintenance. So, they definitely deserve
Really
a little bit
important
of credit.
jobs they have.
They're kind of like the pit crew in racing. You know, the driver gets all the glory, but the pit crew is make or break.
Kind of like TV. We get to be on TV, and there's so many people who make all of this possible.
They work all night long to make sure that we are on the air in the morning. Oh my gosh, Tony, that was a great story.
Absolutely incredible. Yes. So, board, before we hear from Sean, I want to turn it over to, where's John Weston? Is he? So, Executive Director of Maintenance, John Weston, and also our Director of Maintenance of Way Operations, Tom Aaron, who's here for some insight into Sean and what he brings to TriMet. So I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Sam, members of the board, fellow employees and guests. Today I have the privilege of introducing someone who truly represents the best of TriMet in the Maintenance of Way department, Sean Hall. Sean joined TriMet in 2014 as a service worker in the rail equipment maintenance department and has built his career by embracing every opportunity available to him to learn and grow. He transferred to bus maintenance and worked as a spotter until transferring to Maintenance Away as a laborer in 2018. Sean was promoted to the assistant manager position in 2022 and spent 2 years working on the Better Red project before assuming his current role as the assistant manager supporting the Maintenance Away labor group in 2024. During his career, Sean has earned the respect of everyone around him through his work ethic, positive attitude, and commitment to making our system better every day. Those who work with Sean know that he doesn't wait for someone else to solve a problem. He sees an opportunity, rolls up the sleeves, and gets to work. Whether it's developing innovative tools that make our operations safer and more efficient, or creating practical solutions that save the agency time and money, Sean consistently goes above and beyond, but what impresses me the most isn't just Sean's innovation, it's his passion for the people around him. He genuinely cares about his team, takes pride in the work they do, and leads by example every single day. His enthusiasm is contagious, and he has a unique ability to inspire those around him to take pride in their work as well. Sean reminds us that innovation doesn't always come from expensive technology. Sometimes it comes from a frontline leader who knows the work, understands the challenges, and is committed to finding a better way.
So, thank you, Sean. President Lewis, I'll turn it over to you now. I'm sure some of the board members have comments, so I'll turn it over to you. And after the comments, if we could take a break and take a photo with the board with Sean as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. I know that, well, we didn't offer you. Do you have any words for us? I mean, you go before myself.
I'd just like to thank some of my coworkers, if I could. Brendan Seifert and the non-revenue fleet mechanics have done a ton of work to help with this project and others, as well as Mike Garrison and the facilities maintenance mechanics. And of course, all the staff in MOW who helped trial this machine and others that maybe weren't so successful. In particular, I'd like to thank the maintenance of way laborers. So without them, none of this would have worked.
Thank you, and thank you for your passion, innovation, and creativity. I also want to give hugs to your neighbors who have, on either side of that garage, and, the late nights of you working, pounding, and especially all those at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever where you've gone and got your tools. I'm a tool junkie myself, but wow. Hopefully you invite the board to your garage someday, for wine and cheese hour or something. I got lost in Ruby Ridge Junction the other day, and so it's like, wow. So I can imagine your garage. Board members, thoughts? I'll just start with Director McGriff and then Director Flowers on through.
Well, I'm glad you had an opportunity to talk to Tony Martinez. I've talked to him as well. Thank you for your innovation, and do we have a patent on this? I mean, I think this is a little revenue generator that we can sell to other agencies who might have the same issues, and, you should get a part of the cut of, the funding there, the money that comes from that, because it was your idea. So if we haven't done that, we need to do that. Anyway, thank you so much. And yes, I would enjoy going to the garage, although I like to look at tools, so.
Oh, well, she just took exactly what I was about to say. No, 100%. As much as we love having you here, I'm like, this is a really brilliant idea. And I'm sure that there's a market for this nationally. I think that it would be well worth exploring, if you haven't started exploring it already, what it looks like to actually manufacture technology like this at scale, whether it's under the umbrella of something like TriMet or whether it's you going out and starting your own business. I really just don't think you should sell yourself short of how brilliant this is, how brilliant you are, how talented you are, and what it means to us that we have the privilege of benefiting from that brilliance and all the dedication that you've poured into this agency for, well over a decade now. So thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts in the truest of senses. And I hope that this ends up being an ongoing conversation for you in your life as you think about, innovation in the way that it can benefit folks who do the critical work that you've been doing at scale, making their lives easier. There's a market for it, I'm sure of it. We got to figure out how we take advantage of it or how you individually take advantage of it. I don't want TriMet to be greedy on that front either. Yeah.
I am so inspired, and I hope everybody watching this is so inspired too. And I think what is so amazing is that you are doing human-centered design. Like, you are really looking at what people need and then figuring out the solutions to make it safer, to make the jobs take less time, to not have to be out there for 3 weeks cleaning blackberries, which just sounds absolutely awful. And so I really appreciate that, and the focus on safety and the focus on your coworkers and everybody who came together to test these innovations and make them possible. And I think that so often when we talk about innovation, people think about technologies and they do think about really big, expensive solutions. But if we stay focused on the people, we can come up with really creative solutions that are possible to implement. And so I find it really inspiring, and I'm going to share this with all the kids at OMSI.
Thank you, Sean. That brought me so much joy. I had so much fun watching that clip. I haven't seen it before. So thank you for everything. And hopefully you get to speak up and raise your hand more as you see more opportunities for improvements, not just on the MOW front, but on other areas as well, because you have many years under your belt for you to know how TriMet operates and where we're headed now. So thank you so much.
Director Frisbee or Director Graham? Kellogg, Director Kellogg?
I have nothing particularly insightful to say other than that was rad. So thank you. And we heard a, a brief discussion of how it takes a long time to create a culture of continuous improvement. But Sean, you are a perfect example of what it means to be doing that. So thank you so much, and thanks for bringing a really fun thing to the board today. So thank you.
Could I have
Yeah, can you, for the
turn your
folks
mic
in the
on?
back? Yes, there.
Sorry, I was
Okay,
holding it
because
down.
you were talking money.
So
Good, okay.
he saved the authority of $100,000 and got it done quicker than they would have gotten it done.
So we're going to move there. I just want to say how grateful I am of you as the leader of this organization, as stated about making a difference. I always say that the heartbeat of TriMet is our world-class employees. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you and the team around you to get to this point here. And we would love to take a photo with you, and also, if there's anything else that you would like to say, you have the floor.
The one thing I'd like to add is one of the reasons that this is possible in other projects that are ongoing and planned for the future is because of these two guys right here giving me a long leash to develop and look into alternative methods of getting our work done. So.
Absolutely awesome. And I'll be using your work as part of something that we've accomplished with the efficiency part of our goal. So I'll definitely be doing that. So, board, if we could just take a break and
Everyone will take a 5-minute break. Everyone, can we get started with the rest of our board meeting? Okay. Thank you. So before we conclude this portion of our agenda, I have one last announcement. Now that Alan Leto has presented the results of the general manager's FY26 deliverables from 25 to 26, I am publicly, publicly announcing that the board will be engaging in the general manager's FY26 performance evaluation process, which is informed by those deliverables. We do have a subgroup, Team 2, of the board that will be working on that evaluation. That Team 2 subgroup includes Director Flowers, Director Frisbee, and myself. I am also kicking off the general manager's FY26 27 deliverable process, as well as the general manager noted that he will be presenting those shortly. I think at the end of the month? Yes, okay. We have Team 2 subgroup of the board that will be working on the new deliverables. That subgroup includes Team Lead Director Graham, Director Kellogg, and Director McGriff. Both subgroups will be focused in their respective work and will come together for a virtual executive session September 17th to discuss and finalize those documents, which will be publicly presented to the public at our board meeting in October. Vice President Kim will be in charge of finalizing both sets of documents for the October 28th board meeting. A few weeks ago, I did circulate the work schedule. This shows everybody. That will have the target dates and subgroups. If you haven't had a chance to look at that schedule, please do so. Adriana and I think Ruth are reaching out to finalize a few folks on setting those dates for that. Okay, let us turn now to our consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, our consent agenda consists of approving the minutes of our last meeting of June 24th, 2026. Does any director wish to have any of this item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Oh.
I'd just like to make a motion that they be approved as submitted.
Okay, get there. Okay. There is a motion now to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have dual stereo there. It's second. It has been moved and second. We will now vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those virtual?
Aye.
Oh, okay, thumbs up, got it. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Okay, first we will consider resolution number 260722, authorizing a contract with Universal Protection Services, LP, doing business as Allied Security Services to provide transit, customer safety officers, and safety response team services. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
Thanks, President Lewis and members of the board. TriMet has utilized contracted security services to support the work of our Transit Police Division since 1988. It's a cost-effective way of providing security presence and response, especially as the majority of our issues on the transit system are more nuisance than criminal and do not require police. Our main and largest contract security staff is our transit security officers supplied by Allied Universal Security Services. In 2018, TriMet added customer safety officers to support code and fair enforcement activities conducted by our staff. And in 2021, we added the safety response team in response to address emergent issues coming out of the pandemic with public drug use and mental health affecting our community and our transit system. As you know, the teams helps connect people in need on or near our transit system to social services. Last year, the team assisted more than 135,000 times, provided more than 35,000 welfare checks, and connected more than 10,600 people to services. The contract for the security response team and customer safety officers was a sole source contract that ends at the end of this month. It had included the possibility of 2 one-year extensions. But since the board adopted revised contract review board rules last year, including limiting sole source contract awards to 2-year terms in most circumstances and requiring board approval of all sole source contracts over $250,000. We determined a new contract with safety response team members and customer safety officers was prudent. TriMet issued a competitive RFP and received 6 proposals. The evaluation committee determined that Allied offered the best overall value based on its qualified staff, local presence, strong knowledge of TriMet's system, and ability to meet TriMet's needs. Allied proposed a price of $58.4 million. It came in under our independent cost estimate and is fair and reasonable compared to prior contracts and other proposals. The proposed contract includes an initial 3-year term with 2 one-year extension options. The contract will be paid with general funds and is included in the Safety and Security Division's FY27 adopted budget. It will also be requested in Division's future year budgets as well. Currently, the budget funds 75 customer safety officers, 40 safety response team members, totaling 115 positions, in addition to the Allied transit security officers supplied under a separate contract. I do want to note that we did receive a letter from the current provider of these security services, Portland Patrol, Inc., objecting to the outcome of the selection process. After TriMet investigated the protests, I reviewed it with our general counsel, Shelley Devine, and deemed it was unfounded. Specifically, as stated in my response letter to PPI, I found nothing to support the claim that TriMet failed to evaluate PPI's proposal in accordance with criteria and processes set forth in the solicitation. Indeed, PPI submitted a proposal that resulted in its inclusion in the competitive range, and it was one of 2 proposals given the opportunity to interview and submit a best and final offer. On July 16th, PPI requested that I reconsider my decision. I am having the legal and procurement teams evaluate that request. In the meantime, the resolution before you authorizes but does not require me to enter into a contract with the successful proposal Allied. Should I determine in my discretion to grant PPI's reconsideration requests, then I would not exercise that authority. But should I deny PPI's reconsideration requests, your actions today will allow me to move forward without undue delay and sign a contract with Allied. So therefore, I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager. Before I call for comments, is there a motion to approve Resolution 260722?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved in second. I will listen to and call for comments. I do have a question, and it's going to be with Andrew here, and then Director Flowers, and then Director Kim, and then Director Griff, and Tyler? Nope, okay. Question. 58 million is a lot, so I'm really curious for the board outcomes and how you will measure them. And will the board, because it's over a period of couple of years, will we get updates on the outcome of how it's improving our safety and security? And I think that's, and then my other question was, because of the protest, Sam has talked a little about it, does that create any legal issues for us with this contract going forward?
Yeah, great questions. So you are regularly provided updates monthly on our fare enforcement, which is, as you know, our fare evasion rate has been coming down, which is a positive, and we're going to continue to work on that. The CSO position that we developed alongside PPI in 2018 supports that function, right? So it supports our TriMet employees that are out there. So as you see updates from me monthly on things like fare evasion and fare enforcement, know that that is us working with those members of that team to do that work. Also, on the SRT side, again, you're provided with that information, and General Manager Dessou shared this morning the incredible work of the SRT, hundreds of thousands of contacts, which often save lives at times. And so this is an incredible work that we have begun, and we're going to continue to work with the selected bidder to develop this team and hone in and provide those services for our customers. As you get these monthly updates, I will continue to provide those pieces of information you've already been given, but I'll look to provide different ways too of the impact of both these teams out on the system. And in terms of the second question, no, I mean, we have gone through a very good process. And I'll just say, this is a success story for TriMet. We developed these teams, developed a body of work that was really necessary for TriMet and for this community since 2018 through some of the most tumultuous times in our city's history. And these teams are well functioning, they're well integrated with our other teams. And, you know, us reviewing the sole source and recognizing that there could be other competition for these types of services, for this type of work, and having 6 bidders come back is a great success story for TriMet. And I think it does show that this team is an integral kind of part of TriMet in our community. And I really want to celebrate the efforts of these folks because they really are fantastic people doing great work.
Just a little bit more on that. I understand that we do get data and numbers, but I guess I'm looking at something that Sam mentioned earlier, and that's value. What's the measurable value of, I know that the safety response team doesn't so much deal with fare evasion. I mean, they're not writing citations, and, you know, the statistics is great, but we're changing vendors to a different vendor, and so looking at value, service, feedback from our customers on that, not the data of how many bags they hand out, how many bottles of water. But can you look, as we go forward, more critical information of measuring the outcomes from our communities that they're serving? So that's kind of what I was looking for.
I really like that. And
Okay.
Dr. Lewis, you were a part of that work and that effort in Reimagine to develop these teams. And you know the types of things that they're doing out there. So I take that feedback and I really want to bring some of the stories that I get to hear about all of this. I don't know that I've done a very good job, or we've done a very good job of celebrating some of the stories, the success stories. You know, again, this team does incredible work for our community, and we get stories not only of them focusing on, you know, applying Narcan and potentially saving people's lives, to other customers seeing what they're doing and sending us information about how how good it feels to be on the system riding when you see somebody in distress, and that TriMet actually does have a response.
Thank you. Don't mean to hog all the time, but we did have some of the SRT team members come in to share their stories with us. I think it would be good to, do you survey their thoughts? I mean, I know there's the box of what they do, but to utilize their innovation, such as what we heard earlier, on ways we can grow what they do to benefit TriMet and the communities that they serve. I mean, just getting outside the box and being more creative. But I really appreciate that we're moving to a, different vendor and have heard their feedback. Thank you. Okay, Director Flowers and then Director McGriff. And then Director Kim.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to commend the team here, the executive team, Andrew and your team, and of course our procurement team for running such a thorough process here. I think it would have been very easy for us to stick with a sole source contract in this instance, and we could have found ways to justify it. But at a baseline, as an agency, we have a responsibility to make sure we are providing the best value possible, given that every single dollar we invest is a public dollar, right? So thank you, folks, for your thoroughness, for your intention. Just reading through even the scoring of this process, it's very, very clear that there was a whole lot of thought put into how we consider value. And, it was really helpful for us to be able to hear directly from SRT members over the course of the past 6-7 months. And I'm encouraged that the agency was so responsive to that feedback, which didn't say, hey, we want X provider over Y provider, as much as it did, hey, we want to make sure that there's a thoughtful process that determines who this agency goes with. And I'm glad that we came out of that process with a winner. And I'm really excited to see what that means for the future of the agency and this service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just because I'm the new person on the block, could you just very briefly for myself and the members of the public that might be watching this, explain what the difference between the two? And also, if you can help me out now and in the future, I have to learn a whole new set of acronyms. And I'm not, I'm accustomed to them, but, I'm glad somebody did say eventually what the SRT was, because I don't know. It stands for other things in my profession, so.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you.
No, absolutely, and that is a pretty long conversation. You
can do the Cliff Notes
version.
version.
I will do. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Director McGriff, or Denise, as you asked to be called, but I'm going to say Director McGriff. I feel more comfortable. We have at TriMet what we call a layered approach or a multi-layered approach to public safety, and this really grew out of our Reimagine Public Safety initiatives back in 2020, but it also grew out of us losing our law enforcement partners in 21 as well, the Portland Police Bureau. And we're going to be meeting with some of our fabulous partners who stepped into that gap and really helped build alongside us a little later today in the board briefing with our annual report. But out of that, we needed the ability to actually do fare and code enforcement on the system. But without law enforcement there to be able to be a responsive force, we had to develop a new role here, our customer safety officer, so that's 50% of this contract, with the provider at the time. That was a really innovative process. Our director of security was very involved in that. But it was really developing a security force that was responsive to be able to protect our TriMet employees who are doing fare and code enforcement, right? So they're kind of their backup on the system. The SRT is our safety response team. That is similar to other roles around the country that is there to respond to sort of some of the houselessness, drug use, mental illness issues that our city and other cities around the country are facing. So these are folks that actually go out, make contacts, make referrals, have Narcan, have water bottles, socks, different human element needs to be able to respond to some of the needs that are on and in and around the city of Portland that have been growing since 2020. And so this was another layer that was kind of added during the Reimagine Public Safety campaign, and it's been something that we have developed and are proud of. And so those are the two acronyms that I'm going to throw at you this morning. There are others, unfortunately. I've got to be honest. So.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. General Manager Sam, I fully support this resolution. In addition to voting yes on this resolution, I also support you proceeding with the contract with the, of course, under the advisement of the General Counsel, Shelley, and her team. I think regardless of the reconsideration request that you have received after the protest has been denied, and one perspective I have is I would hate for there to be this creation of this unofficial precedent that potentially undermines the procurement team's proper processes that were already followed and are defensible, right? So I wanted to say that, and I also want to recognize the public testimony that we have received this morning by the gentleman related to this one, and I appreciate all public testimonies, including that one. And perhaps in light of that testimony, one additional lens we could consider is, hopefully the resulting contract from this resolution would pay special attention to the transition services, right? Fully recognizing that this is not just, handing off of a beautiful porcelain vase, as he had alluded, but it's really allowing each vendor to steward it for the particular duration under the terms of the contract that we're executing. So that both sides are clear and we're all partners, right? And we do a great amount of work to raise up local vendors, not just in construction space, but also in security space as well. So this is looking at long-term, we're all partners. So we want to make sure that to the extent possible, that they're walking away happy as well, and this is another constructive opportunity for them to grow. And hopefully, as we rebound, and there will be more need in different ways as well, that we can incorporate them in. So thanks, Sam.
Felicia, was none for on virtual? No? Okay. Oh, okay. Director Kellogg?
Thank you, President Lewis. I want to return to your comment that this is a lot of money. I do not want to give the impression that I don't appreciate the work that either the CSS or CSO and SRT folks do. But looking at the numbers, this averages out to about $11 million a year. And when we divide that by 115 people, that's $102,000 per person per year. What I can't square that with is looking at the salaries that are paid to these folks, which are on average about $30 an hour or $60,000 a year. So I'm trying to understand if there's a disconnect or I'm just not understanding something, but that seems to be a pretty remarkable margin to be paying for these services.
Yeah, do you want me? So, great observation, Director Kellogg. You're not wrong in those number assumptions. There is a lot of training and a lot of equipment and a lot of other things that are wrapped up in some of those margins, but there's also overhead cost. And the reason I say that is one of the good outcomes of this, why I say this is a success story, is out of the sole source that we could have gone with. This actually produced a better margin through the BAFO process in the solicitation. So we have sharpened the pencil. We provided some more money, I think, to the folks that are out there. And we're going to really stay focused on that in terms of how much take-home is actually coming to those employees as much as we possibly can. But I will say there is a large amount of overhead cost in there. And a lot of that has to do with things like training, resources, and materials and costs.
Okay, and so just further clarification, in terms of, are we invoiced every month for actual hours expended and expenses and that type of thing? So it's just not a flat amount that's paid out?
Yeah, it's based on billable hours. And I say that because recall, too, we are reducing these teams this year. I think you guys have remembered that in our cost reduction, the size of these teams is actually going down. So you're going to see that material play out as part of our cost reduction. And really what that is about it's about billable hours and billable rate and how much we're actually utilizing the services on the system. Which are going to come down because of the numbers that we're not actually putting out there. but also is just a key lever that we look at monthly in terms of what is billed to us from the vendor.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on Director Kellogg's comment, remind me, are the, the customer safety officers, excuse me, carrying DPSST numbers?
Yes,
Okay,
they
so
are.
that,
Yep.
that
As
is a
security guard in the state of Oregon.
considerable amount of training at the academy that is
Yeah.
billed in that as well. And their time is paid as they're away for
Right.
that training. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Director.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. You said the size of the patrols were going to be reduced, so what are they now and what are we going to?
Well, we had on the CSO side, we had about 110 at the height. And on the SRT side, we had 93. Those are coming down to 75 is the target that we're setting for that 110 for the CSOs, so from 110 to 75. And then on the SRT side, again, I think at the height we had 93, and it's now going to be down to 40. So we're reducing strategically to try to recoup some money.
Sure.
You know, you'll hear later, we're also adding some law enforcement as we now have law enforcement ability to get back in with transit or jurisdictions that left. One of them, I think I mentioned to you yesterday, Oregon City, which we're in talks with. So we're really excited about bringing some of those folks. They used to be in. Recall, we had as many as 15 agencies, law enforcement agencies in our tri-county area. We built this task force model for a reason so that we can really be in a tri-county position and be able to have jurisdictional partners in those areas, which helps with law enforcement as they track people. They're able to go back to their precinct and get more information, et cetera. So there's a benefit to TriMet to have a large kind of jurisdictional presence in the task force model. But yeah, we're going to be reducing from roughly 110 to 75 and from a height of 93 to 40. So there's going to be some impact there, even in sort of the financial amount that we're approving.
So I wasn't real super clear, so thank you for that. But
Yep.
so when it actually was boots on the ground, are the size of those teams going to be reduced?
Yes, the size of the team is reducing for both teams.
Okay.
From 110 to 75.
No. I'm talking about the ones that are on the trains and on the buses and whatever. Is it like 3 people in a team or 2 people in a team?
Oh, I
or-
see, the size of deployment.
Yes, yeah, I didn't use the right word.
Well, not at this time. We're
Okay.
not really, and I say that, you'll hear sometimes that, like with the SRT, that they're in large groups.
Sure.
A lot of that is because training is constantly happening. And so you can't just join this group. You spend a lot of time in training with existing members. And so because of that, you'll see groups of 4 or 5 out there. But those, 2 or 3 of those will be in a training environment.
Yeah, I've seen that on the,
Yeah.
on the MAC sign.
So now, having said that, with we have seen, turnover rates, are coming down. And also with a smaller group, we have kind of a core that's been out there for a while as well. So we won't see the same level of turnover, which roughly would mean you're not going to see as much training. And so you could see smaller groups.
Well, it's hard work.
It is very hard work. And it's not for everybody.
No.
And we have to find ways to support them. And, again, success story for TriMet that we built a employee base that actually has good employment. You'll hear them come. You've heard them say, we really enjoy this work. We want to be a part of this work. We have people that are on mission. They care for the city. And we want to find ways to continue to support them. And so we're excited that as many bidders came forward and that we have one that's viable. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from board? Okay. It's been moved in second at this time. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you for the work that you're doing. And we'll hear more later. Okay. Voice. Next, we will consider Resolution 260723, authorizing a construction manager general contractor service contract with Stacy Whitback for the track rehabilitation project. General Manager, do you have any comments at this time on this resolution?
So President Lewis, members of the board, this resolution focuses on keeping our light rail system in a state of good repair. Every year, we must do what we label max improvement projects to replace worn and outdated materials and equipment, upgrading crossings and section of our trackway in order to make other improvements to keep trains running safely, smoothly, and on schedule. Stacy Whitback has been a longtime vital partner in these state of good repair projects for more than a decade. It's time to issue a new CMGC contract for these large maintenance projects for the next 5 years. Among the upcoming projects, we will be replacing some worn rail and special trike work and installing new roadway crossing panels in select areas. 4 firms expressed interest in the RFP issued for this work, but only Stacy and Whitback submitted a proposal or bid. This is extremely specialized work that requires a high level of expertise specific to light rail industry, the necessary equipment, and required technical abilities. That is why the other companies did not submit bids and indicated that they were not suited for the CMGC role or did not have the experience necessary for it. Additionally, the project team has previously done outreach to other national firms that specialize in this type of work. However, those firms indicated the contract is too small to warrant relocation to Portland. This resolution authorizes a $20 million CMGC contract to Stacy Whitback, plus a $2.4 million change order allowance for pre-construction and construction services over a 5-year term. Individual task orders will be issued for each project element, with construction pricing developed during pre-construction to align with TriMet's budget and estimates. General fund dollars for this work are included in our maintenance division's budget for FY27 and will continue to be requested through the 5-year capital improvement project plan budget for future years, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager. Before we take comments, is there a motion to approve Resolution 260723?
So moved, Kim.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, it's been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment before we vote? Director Flowers?
Yeah, thank you, President Lewis. I don't have any direct issues with this contract, so let me not pretend as if I do. I do think this raises a broader question for me, which is how much of this work do similarly sized transit agencies across the country perform themselves? I'm wondering if there is a long-term opportunity for us to start thinking about expanding our capacity to deliver some of this maintenance-based capital construction work on our own as an agency, and am very interested in learning more about the potential cost savings or lack thereof that would come with TriMet shifting into a more assertive role from a maintenance perspective.
We'll definitely follow up on that. Jamie, I don't know if you have comments that you would like to, you and the team would like to make here?
Thank you. I brought the team with me to help answer those kinds of questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Nana, the project manager, and to Sean.
I appreciate it. Is this working? Yes. I appreciate the question. That's a very astute question for an agency that I think is experiencing the maturation as a state of good repair agency. And I've done a little bit of research on this over the years, and it really depends how large the transit agency is and how old its assets are. If you look at ASEPTA, where our recent director of MOW, Tom Aaron, came from, I'm sure they have much more experience with self-perform. Agencies like the West Coast 11 that we're a part of, we're moving in that direction. The interesting thing here is balancing, I think as you intuited, the capacity in the market with our ability to self-perform. And I will say, we haven't looked at that as closely for track assets because we have had the good fortune of having a competitive company that does work for us here. But I will say that, not speaking for our maintainers, in other asset classes, there is active look at self-performing and moving to self-performing. And I don't, again, want to speak for John Weston or Tom, but we're certainly in discussions about that with respect to the overhead catenary system. When you think about it nationally, our market for contractors for this type of work, most of those contractors are associated with heavy rail, Class 1s. A lot of that work is concentrated in other regions where they're switching. You take that relatively large market of contractors and then reduce it for those contractors that have experience working on electrified rail. All of a sudden, that large Class 1 market becomes even smaller. Then you look at entities that are experienced doing paved track specifically. And just if you go out in Oregon and you start imagining where do you see rail and track, you'll notice most of that is ballasted track. And so we are in a place where this is a narrow market, but we've been very, very fortunate that some entities have been willing to make that investment and maintain the presence here. But I will say, long-term, I know that the maintenance program is looking at the balance of when does it make sense to bring some of these services in-house because we control our destiny a little bit more and because the market is so narrow that we're less likely to get competitive pricing. Luckily, we're not in that position right now with track assets.
That's remarkably helpful. And, you know, I can say for the record, I think I speak for all of us in saying Stacy Whitbeck has been a fantastic partner for the agency. So thank you for highlighting that. It's just something I'm thinking about as, you know, listening to the general manager's report today, thinking about the ways we innovate long-term, the ways that we make the agency more efficient at doing what we need to do and maintaining what we build. It seems like a natural thing for us to look at. So it's not time sensitive, it's not urgent, but as we start to develop more of an understanding of the actual numbers behind a potential shift like that over various time periods, I'd be very, very interested in seeing those, particularly the amount of money that this could save us from a contracting perspective, and to the cost of acquiring equipment that would come with a shift like that, which I'm sure would be significant. If that's a shift that we're thinking about making over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years, it seems like something we need to be actively planning for in the present tense, or planning not to do. So would love further information on that if at all possible. Thanks so much.
Director Frisbee?
My comments were very similar to Director Flowers. So I appreciate the work that was done on this contract. Whenever we see something where we only have one person bid, my question is always like, why? What happened? And I appreciate the context around that. And I think appreciate Director Flowers' comments and the work of this team in thinking long-term about how do we not end up in a situation where we are beholden to an outside entity without a lot of flexibility. Even as trusted and long-term a partner as Stacy Woodbeck, we've worked with them in so many different projects and different capacities, but want to make sure we always have the flexibility we need.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from board? Seeing none, okay, it's time. It has been moved in second, so at this time, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, team. Okay. This concludes our July 2026 business meeting. At our next regular meeting will be September 23rd here in our board room. There is not a board meeting in August. We're going to take a 5-minute break, 5-minute break. We do have two presentations and two briefing presentations, very important. So please watch the time. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're back from our very short break. And for the first item, we have the briefing agenda is the 2025 Annual Transit Police Report. Sam, over to you.
Thanks, President Lewis. Members of the board, first, I am thrilled to have the Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Marcy O'Donnell here with us, joining us today. I was going to say this morning, but we've reached a noon. Under her leadership and with other security improvements, Chief of Safety and Security Andrew Wilson have established over the past year, or I should say several years, calls for police services on our system have dropped nearly 50% since 2021, and they've remained steady last year over the previous year. We have forged a very strong partnership between TriMet and the Sheriff's Office, and we've been focused and critical to safety of our riders and also in our employees. So Andrew, I'll start with you. I'll turn it over to you and the sheriff for the 2025 Annual Transit Police Report.
Well, thanks, Sam. And you've heard enough from me this morning, so I'll keep this very brief and hand it off to the sheriff. But I will just say that, partnerships has been a theme of today, and we have an excellent partnership with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department. We were left in a difficult spot in 21, the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Marcy O'Donnell was the undersheriff then under Mike Reese. She was instrumental in really kind of building this partnership, which is very unique. And there's a lot of different elements. You heard about some of them today. And the Sheriff's Department has been building and integrating and helping connect with us extremely well and getting really good results. And so I'm excited to have the sheriff and our transit chief, Matt Jordan, a friend of mine, here with us this morning to talk about those results. But I just do want to again, highlight this is an excellent partnership, and we really appreciate the leadership position that the MCSO walked in for TriMet and for Transit Police. And they've been doing some excellent work. So with that, I'll give it to you, Sheriff.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, TriMet Board President, Dr. Lewis, and Board of Directors. As stated, I'm Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, Multnomah County Sheriff, and I have Captain Matt Jordan here, who is your Chief of Transit Police. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to discuss our ongoing collaborative partnership with TriMet and our shared commitment to a welcoming and safe transit system for everyone. Before we begin, I would like to thank Sam DeSue and Andrew Wilson for their continued support, as well as recognize the entire TriMet team and our multi-agency team of law enforcement professionals. They show up every day, dedicated, and they have genuine care for the communities that they serve. And I'm incredibly proud of the work and honored that the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office has had the opportunity to lead Transit Police and serve our entire region through this partnership. We believe that this collaborative model that we've created and continue to expand upon strengthens public safety through positive engagement, service connections, and accountability for those who are engaged in criminal activity, who are negatively impacting our community and our ridership. People rely on public transportation every day to get to school, work, medical appointments, recreation sites, and a multitude of other destinations. And everyone's safety is our highest priority, and just as important, ensuring that people feel safe on the system. Next slide, please. So we started our official journey in 2021, and our proven commitment to providing exemplary public safety service was highlighted and recognized in the intergovernmental agreement that we were able to get successful approval on. This partnership, as Andrew said, has also been personally meaningful to me at the time I was leading our law enforcement division, and I had the opportunity to help guide this transition together. Throughout this process, I became excited about what this partnership could become, and I remain committed to success and continuous improvement each and every day. Our vision for Transit Police extended far beyond a traditional policing model. Early on, we recognized that a collaborative safety presence, bringing together law enforcement and non-law enforcement partners, could better address the wide range of challenges occurring on and around our transit system, as well as within our broader community. As law enforcement agencies nationwide were experiencing significant staffing shortages, it also presented everyone an opportunity to rethink how we deliver public safety services by building new relationships and engaging every possible resource, such as strengthening relationships with the safety response team, customer safety officers, security personnel, supervisors, operators, leadership, and other resources whose daily presence contributes to a safe transit system each and every day. Together, each brings a different perspective and a different set of resources to the collaborative work that we're doing. We also recognize that every situation doesn't require a law enforcement response. Our goal was to help build a model that was capable of addressing the full range of challenges that we encounter, from homelessness to behavioral health to addiction, as well as criminal activity. And addressing these issues requires different types of resources. Since assuming this responsibility for transit police, we have built and we continue each and every day to strengthen our trusted relationships with TriMet leadership, employees, and communities across our area. So before we begin moving through the rest of the slides, I did want to share one quick example that illustrates this strong partnership. Last week, I received an email commending Captain Jordan and his two lieutenants, Likatowicz and Moten, for their meet and greet sessions at Merlot and Powell garages. And I believe you'll hear a little bit more about that later in our presentation. It stated that their consistent presence in our garages has spoken volumes. Seeing them in person has helped build trust, strengthen relationships, and increase engagement with our operators. Hundreds of operators have expressed their appreciation for transit police being present, visible, and supportive throughout our system, something they had not had the opportunity to experience before, commenting on their level of visibility, camaraderie, and support. This is just one example of how our Multnomah County Sheriff's Office mission shows up in action every day by being present, connected, inspired, and proud. Next slide. So this is our organizational chart, and I wanted to provide a snapshot of the agencies that are participating in transit police and how our leadership, supervision, and our staffing are structured. As you see, the overall leadership is provided by the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office through one captain and two lieutenants that are responsible for overseeing the entire transit police division. Our supervisory team is intentionally multi-agency, which includes sergeants from the Sheriff's Office, Beaverton Police Department, Hillsborough Police Department, and the Portland Police Bureau. Together, they supervise deputies and officers representing each participating agency, including the Port of Portland Police Department. This multi-agency structure is one of the greatest strengths of our transit police model. It allows multiple law enforcement agencies to operate under one unified leadership structure that provides consistent expectations, accountability, operational standards, which is absolutely critical to serving a transit system of the size and complexity of TriMet. While each agency has its own mission, we all come together with shared values and one commitment to providing a safe, professional service for everyone that relies on TriMet. Next slide. And then I think it's important to highlight our agency visions and missions from TriMet to the Sheriff's Office to Transit Police, so we can show how our different responsibilities are guided by the same principles. And that alignment and our shared commitment to service, safety, and our community has been an important part of our success together and our ongoing continuous improvement. Next slide. And then building on each organization, the Transit Police vision and mission provides a common purpose for everyone in the division. It reflects our shared commitment to safety, professionalism, and service for the people who rely on TriMet every day. It also reflects back to the story I shared earlier. Transit Police supports the entire TriMet system, including employees, infrastructure, and ridership. Next slide. So in the rest of our agenda today, you will see a more in-depth on our staffing model and how that works with multiple agencies involved. Service data, which includes reported crime and presence on the transit system. our West Side Transit Police operations, and we'll share a few of our upcoming priorities for this year. So I'll now turn it over to Captain Matt Jordan to cover a more in-depth in the annual report. Next slide.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Lewis, it's good to see you again. Sam, thank you for having me, Board of Directors. I was just going to touch on a couple kind of higher level. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Dr. Lewis, it's good to see you again. Sam, thank you, Board of Directors. I was just going to highlight some higher level stats that are outlined in the report. Our day shift covers Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., and our swing shift covers 7 days a week, 2 p.m. to midnight. This allows us to expand our day shift. As we continue throughout the rest of the year, it's anticipated that we are going to add an additional day shift. So we'll have transit police coverage from 6 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Our Washington County partners, the Beaverton Police Department and the Hillsborough Police Department, currently work 7 days a week from 2 p.m. to midnight. Next slide, please. Here we see that in 2025, we had 4,349 calls for service. These are official calls from BOEC, so someone has physically called the police that was transit related. We also see, if you notice the number on the right from 2024, we see that number is consistent with 2025. This is a good thing that transit police calls for service in 2025 remain consistent with 2024 numbers. It suggests that stability in public safety and security within the transit system. There are always opportunities to improve safety measures and address emerging issues and enhance the overall experience of transit riders. And we will remain committed to proactive policing, community engagement, and continuous improvement to ensure the transit system is safe and welcoming for everybody. Next slide. Out of those 4,300 calls for service, I wanted to highlight that less than 6% of those resulted in an arrest. This indicates that most incidents are being resolved without the need for serious enforcement action or taking people into custody. Low arrests also demonstrate a balanced and measured approach to public safety that prioritizes problem solving and community well-being over enforcement whenever that's possible. Next slide, please. Here we have self-initiated calls for service. So we have police calls, like 911 calls from BOEC, and then we have self-initiated calls for service. So in 2025, transit police self-initiated 6,147 calls for service. These self-initiated calls show that we are actively patrolling the system, that we're engaged and attentive, identifying issues and addressing concerns before they escalate to others calling the police. Next slide. So we have BOEC calls for service, we have self-initiated calls for service, and now we have time spent on the system. So this is documented time that transit police have spent on the system. In 2025, we spent 13,212 hours of documented time on the system. Time on the system deters crime and disorder, and it's a very important investment in proactive safety, community trust, and service quality. Next slide. So why do we spend so much time on the system? Well, it's a response to safety concerns. As the sheriff highlighted, operators have told me personally multiple times that they've never seen so many transit police on the system. Spending time on the system allows us to interact with riders, with staff, answer questions, and build positive relationships. We also participate in a lot of community events. For example, Friday we'll be at the National Night Out at Directors Park. This is a time to highlight transit police, our relationship with TriMet, show people transit police, bicycles, and ATVs, and just talk about the livability issues and TriMet and transit police. It's livability improvement. When riders see transit police on the system, it reassures them that their safety is a priority and can increase their confidence in using public transportation. System presence also promotes order and maintenance. Our visible presence can often prevent disorderly conduct and reassure passengers that the police are contributing to their transit experience. We also, I think it strengthens partnerships. Like we've highlighted, we do meet and greets at the Center Street, Merlot, and Ruby Junction. Again, this not only builds trust, but it also communicates that we are true partners in this. And just to give you a real-life example, the other day I was at Center Street where operators were talking to me about a potential issue that's on Foster in the city of Portland. And I actually addressed that right then and there, where I called our sergeant, and Transit Police actually addressed his concern and issue right there in real time. So it's an extremely valuable tool that I've discovered, that these meet and greets not only help me get to know TriMet and TriMet processes, but it also helps the operators trust. And it's something that, you know, nobody's job is more important than anybody else's. We just have different functions and responsibilities. And I know I appreciate the interaction that I have with these operators. It's been a highlight of my week. Also, system presence allows us to identify, interdict chronic offenses. The regular presence of our deputies and police officers gain firsthand knowledge of the unique challenges in the transit environment, and it allows us to tailor our response to certain areas on the system. Next slide, please. So we do high visibility missions as well. So in 2025, we did 32 missions. We issued 625 warnings. We wrote 45 citations, wrote 9 exclusions, and arrested 309 people. These high visibility details do have a meaningful impact in areas where safety concerns have been reported. And when I do hear from TriMet employees and operators and get their feedback, it gives me areas that we can deploy our staff accordingly. Next slide. I don't want to leave our West Side partners out of this. The West Side, Beaverton Police Department, Hillsborough Police Department are extremely valuable partners in transit police. I was very thankful that we recently added 2 Beaverton police officers to our transit police division. Although the West Side, they do not encounter as many criminal incidents as in other areas, their visible presence does remain essential for both riders and staff. With a consistent police presence and accessibility throughout the transit system, these officers help create an environment where people do feel safe and TriMet employees feel supported. Thank you. Again, thank you. My goal in transit police is to have a proactive approach that is designed to discourage unwanted behavior and provide immediate support wherever it's needed most. Our presence is throughout the entire system. We do continue to train and have a good partnership with TriMet that supports our training. We have never reached a level to where we don't need training. There are times and calls for service that on the system that are new to our officers and deputies. So our training and continual maintenance in training is extremely important to me. Communication is key. No one is more important. Like I said, we just have different responsibilities and tasks to do pretty much the same thing, and that's row in the same direction. And then everything that we do is data-driven. So 2026 is shaping up to be a highly productive year for transit police. Thank you for your support. I thank the sheriff for her support. Thank you to TriMet's executive team and the general manager, Sam DeSue, and Andrew Wilson. I am encouraged to continue this important work and have a positive influence on the transit system. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from our board members that are here? Seeing none?
No, I just know that we'll be added on the next slide presentation.
Yes, I am excited. We are, one of my goals for this year is to add transit police to Clackamas County. So I have been in extensive talks with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and the Oregon City Police Department and anticipate their contributions later in the fall, towards the end of the year.
Well, if you want to get a jump on it, our neighbors' night out is August the 4th.
August the 4th.
Yes,
You
in
got
Oregon
it.
City.
I will talk to the chief about that.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Thank you, Director McGriff. I do know, I spoke to Chief Travis Gresham, that he is sending will be adding two close to December, he said, for the transit. So you might be getting two more, which that's my area. So I love Gresham, and hopefully Gresham will be added.
I am always in support of adding more law enforcement because I know it's, it's TriMet, it's a tri-county system. And it is an extremely large footprint.
Right.
And we do actually do a lot of work with not a lot of people.
Thank you.
So more the better.
Checking with our board members that are virtual. Any questions, feedback? Oh, Director Kellogg.
Thank you, President Lewis. Chief Jordan, Sheriff Morrissey, thank you for your service. I wanted to ask one question first, and then second is a general comment. So first, there was a slide that listed 32 missions and 300 arrests. That's nearly 10 arrests per mission. What are you arresting people for at that rate? They're outstanding warrants?
Great question. There is, it's a variety of things. I wouldn't narrow it down to specific situations or incidents. However, I would say that it's anywhere from a warrant arrest to disorderly conduct to assaults. It's all circumstance, and it's just depending on where we are, what time of night it is, if it's during the day, if it's at night. It is definitely data-driven. We plan out these missions and these high-visibility details based on feedback I get from TriMet employees, based on our deputies and police officers, and where we see most activity. There's not one specific place on the TriMet system that is more important than the other. However, it kind of ebbs and flows. It could be somewhere in Gresham, it could be in Hillsborough, it could be Delta Park, and it could be on Tacoma. It's just all circumstantial. So it all depends. We can arrest 20 people on one mission, and we can arrest nobody on the next mission. So it's just all circumstantial.
Okay, appreciate that. In the same context, there were about 700 warnings and citations. Is that primarily interference with public transit? And I ask that question because it's a big number. And my understanding is that transit police, though they did in the past, no longer plays any part in fare enforcement. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. We do not do fare enforcement. And again, those warnings could be anything from taking up too many seats on a train to smoking on the platform to interfering with public transportation.
Okay, and feel free to phone a friend on this one, especially your next door neighbor there. Why is it that transit police don't participate in fare enforcement?
Well, there's a long story. I think you know some of that, Director Kellogg. And honestly, Sheriff might actually want to weigh in on this too. I think she was, knowledgeable of this. But several years ago, actually before COVID, there was a lot of questions into the fairness of fair enforcement on the system. There was several different kind of high-profile cases that came around that time that really poked at the disproportional kind of fair citation metrics that were out there. There was a lot of really good data that supported that was inaccurate as well, but in that fervor, there was kind of a joint discussion from the 3 different DAs in the Tri-County area, as well as an appellate case that we could send you if you wanted more information. I think you might have that already from Eric Van Hagen. Valderrama was a part of that. And there was a decision essentially that made it so that fair enforcement as the primary focus from a law enforcement professional. I say that because, there can be, somebody can be caught up in other things, and then folks can also have a IPT or a fair citation kind of, as a part of that. But law enforcement isn't out there doing fair enforcement. And that's really related to search and seizure as well. And so there's some good sort of case law that was developed around that time frame where it took law enforcement out of that space, whereas before it was. And I say that because even when I was here in 2016, the transit police would engage in fair enforcement. Often that would produce a warrant, et cetera, as they were kind of policing the system. From my seat, that has not been a great outcome for us. I'd like to see folks be able to engage on that. However, we've developed some pretty good tools to be able to do that without law enforcement doing that activity. And we can focus them on other areas that produce, worse outcomes. I have said this before, not every sort of criminal engages, how do I say it, Matt? Not every fair evader is a criminal.
Not everyone who isn't going to pay a fare commits a crime, but everybody who commits a crime is unlikely to pay a fare.
Yeah, that's right. If you have got a warrant, if you've engaged in other criminal activity, the fact that, you wanting to pay fare is probably pretty low. And so what that means is when you can engage on those types of code and fair enforcement outcomes, you can actually clear a warrant or two with somebody that actually is dangerous to the community. And so this is why we have teams that are non-law enforcement doing that activity. Having said that, we really have been trying to build the transit police division back up because I believe in law enforcement every single day being on our system. They produce excellent outcomes for us, not just us, but our region. And so, as more law enforcement numbers come back in our region, that produces better outcomes for TriMet as well and our riders. And so you'll see us at the table really trying to support our partners and DA Vasquez or Bob Day's, pursuit of more officers on the streets of Portland. All those things actually do help that public safety ecosystem. One thing I'll also say, Senate Bill 1553, which really gave us an additional tool to be able to enforce with some more teeth the use of drugs on our platforms and vehicles. Those types of efforts are really, really important to us because we need law enforcement in these spaces to produce good outcomes for transit. And so that's, I will say, on the missions, a lot of those missions were related to certain areas where we pulled data, we've heard from employees. Matt has done an incredible job of getting his team out there and addressing issues that have been seen, things like drug use at certain areas or drug dealing at certain areas. And so that's very helpful to us to use that data. But that's a really long-winded answer to a complex problem, but go more, Director Kellogg, as necessary. What else should I answer there?
Well, I just want to be clear. I'm not criticizing the transit police for doing something that, the law has certainly changed in terms of nuance. But I'd like to see, given the problems we have as an agency with fair enforcement, the inability to request identification, the inability to remove somebody from the train, that without, a change for us or transit police involvement in fair enforcement, we're not doing a great job of it. right? That's my concern, is that one of the two items has to improve for us to do better at our job so that more people are going to feel better about riding the trains. So I don't know if there's an answer to that. That's just my comment.
Okay. Sheriff Morrissey, did you have a response on that? No? Okay.
Just, I think, as we've navigated some of these challenges with different laws that have come in place and ensuring that we're utilizing, as I mentioned in the beginning, when we started this journey, I believe we had 14 sworn law enforcement.
Right.
So always being cognizant, and I recognize the challenges that this presents and additional concerns for ridership, but we're really trying to focus our resources where they're needed most. That's part of how we're looking at our missions, is we're looking at data, we're listening to operators and TriMet employees, because we want to make sure that we're putting our resources where we're seeing concerns. With a finite amount, collaboration is absolutely key for us. And we want to maintain those really wonderful partnerships that are helping. Everyone has a different role in helping ensure the transit system is safe. So we all recognize the constraints and the challenges that we faced over the last 6 years. And I appreciate the comments. And again, we are going to continue to move forward, utilizing the resources that we have in the best possible way. But it is always very important for us to receive feedback because things change fairly rapidly. So we want to make sure that, again, we put other measures in place when we can.
Thank you. I did have just one final question for Chief Jordan. The sheriff did note 6 years ago, that's when I came on the board, when we were shifting from Portland Police to the sheriff's office. Yes, celebrating that. So not the PowerPoint wording, but from you, what changes, what positive changes have you seen from when you first came with the small amount of men and women to now? And one thing I will add before you answer is, one thing I noticed is when I first came on is the feedback from the operators and drivers of them being harmed and spit on. And I came unglued that we did not deal with that because I feel that that's a threat. That has changed. I don't hear that much now of our operators. I feel that they feel a lot safer. So that's one big change I've noticed. But can you share one or two positive of
Sure.
then and now
Sure.
where we've come?
Historically, transit police has been an assignment that has typically there's been a lot of freedom. So police officers they have the freedom to go from the zoo to Gresham, from Clackamas County to Vancouver. There's a lot of freedom there. So historically, there maybe wasn't a lot of accountability with that freedom. With the sheriff's office and with our leadership and with our deputies, and we have buy-in from our deputies that transit police is specifically for transit-related matters. And we're still police officers and we will respond to emergencies. However, we do not get bogged down with the busyness of our city or the busyness of the adjoining cities here. With the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, our deputies want to be proactive. They want to be valuable. They want to make a difference. And I think because of our leadership at the Sheriff's Office, our deputies see this as an opportunity to do something different and not have an excuse just to have more freedom. Like I said, I think historically, transit police has just been kind of evaporated into the community, and there wasn't a whole lot of accountability there. My goal is to get buy-in from our deputies And they come here to do transit-related police work. Our surrounding agencies, the Port of Portland, even the Portland Police Bureau, Beaverton and Hillsborough, from Lake Oswego to Oregon City to Clackamas County, they see that, and they see the productive, good work that we do, and they want to be a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being here today. I saw the report when it first came out from Andrew and was like totally excited. It's like, okay, we have to have you here to share it with the board. It's a lot of hard work. Thank you and greatly appreciated. Okay, Sam? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next on our briefing agenda is the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. Sam, I'll hand that over to you.
All right, as our team come up, our board members are, we have some exciting developments lately concerning the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. So Jamie Snook, our Executive Director of Capital Project Delivery for our Engineering and Construction Division, and also Paige Sloop, our IBR Project Director, is joining us, and also Carly Francis, our IBR Interim Program Administrator, is joining us to give us an update on the project. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, General Manager DeSue, Board President, Dr. Lewis, and the remaining board directors. Yes.
I think we have two on
Perfect. Perfect. I'm just here to introduce the team. They're here to give the IBR program update. And so General Manager DeSue already introduced them, so I'm going to hand it over and let you guys go ahead.
Thank you, and we can make this a little bit quicker maybe than otherwise anticipated, because I imagine at least President Lewis and Director McGriff, who may not be eating at home, might be hungry, as I am. So Carly Francis, I would just want to start by noting the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program really appreciates our partnership with TriMet. They obviously have embedded staff, and that's really valuable to us. So it's been essential to moving the program forward. So really appreciate that. So we'll go to the next slide. We do have some updates from the beginning of the year. I'll make these sort of brief. The first line item here says that the Coast Guard is willing and able to give us a permit to take out the bridge lift. So that means no red light on I-5, which is very exciting. We do have the record of decision in non-transportation speak. That is the approval from the federal government to advance construction on anything in our environmental documentation, which is a major milestone. We've been working on it for like 5 years. Very excited about that. We also have been working to advance work to construction. So we've been engaging with industry for a long time, but we had an industry event and are working to put out procurement information out starting in likely in August. So very excited about getting a request for qualifications out on the street. I think I would just note that those pieces are complete. Getting the record of decision also meant that we were completed with a bunch of financial work we had to do with the federal government. Okay. Next slide. This is a bit of an update on program milestones. So I've covered the first two items. That record of decision did come in on the 1st of July. Looking again for a request for qualifications on the bridge replacement contract this summer, and then late this year, a request for proposals. So that's actually working on getting construction underway, hopefully in 2028, on replacing that bridge that we've been working on for a very long time. We are still targeting, so we're expecting that toll commencement would begin around the same time as building the bridge. People like to see that. You want to know what you're paying for, so that toll commencement would be around the time we're starting construction. Still targeting a full funding grant agreement in 2030, which will support the extension, the full extension of light rail across the river as we move forward. Anticipating that construction timeframe for the bridge itself is 6 to 7 years. We have to finalize that with the contractor, so we will learn more about that later. and targeting light rail in service in 2036. That does require additional funding to get there. Next slide. This is that when I said that we have federal approval to advance construction on anything that's covered in the environmental document. This is a picture of what that looks like. So it's a 5-mile program. And the biggest message I want to highlight here is just the commitment of the states to deliver this program over time. I'm sure you heard the cost estimate information come out this spring. Big numbers. We don't have all that money right now, but the intention is to complete this work. It just has to be done in phases and over time. Next slide. As I mentioned, we did have a cost estimate update and numbers did go significantly higher. So originally, in the 2022 estimate, we had a $5 to $7.5 billion cost estimate with a likely cost of $6 billion. That did go up this spring to $14.4 billion. That is a very rich conversation that happens around that estimate. So we take detailed information like how many widgets you need or how many people you need to do all those things. That's what's in the base estimate here. Then you talk about what's the likelihood of those costs or volumes to change over time. That's in that risk figure. So you're trying to figure out how much that could wiggle and what the probability of that is. And once you do that and you have those assigned, then you're also adding escalation, so building it out to year of construction. So that is that $14.4 billion. That's our Plan 2 costs, and that's the dialogue that we're in with the federal government at this time around our financial plan. Next slide. There are some key changes to note there. I would highlight just a couple things. There's some smaller items on this slide that are less relevant. The delivery schedule for the program was extended 11 years. 2 of those years are related to realized delay in the NEPA process, the environmental process that has now got us to the record of decision. It took us 2 years longer than we had projected in the 2022 estimate timeframe. Beyond that is recognizing that construction of a 5-mile corridor originally had been anticipated in that 22 estimate to last about 10 years. 5 miles of construction over 10 years is a lot. So we took a closer look at that and also understood what industry capacity was available. And so that did extend that construction horizon to about 20 years instead of that 10. Another thing I would just highlight is the repackaging of construction contracts. That's about opportunity, but also about just managing those contracts. And then more detailed information in the estimate as I highlighted. So those are things. The bridge design is less of a cost driver than just a design development over time. Next slide. You folks were talking about the cost of fuel earlier. So this is a very generalized 58% increase since the 2022 estimate. You look at the curve coming into that 2022 timeframe, that's that first diamond. The curve looks different. It's gentler going in. So if you look backwards to look forwards, the capacity even in 2022 to look forwards and see what was coming, we didn't have that foresight available. I think the other thing I would just note here is that this is a generalized transportation industry cost index for highway construction. What we see is some of the things that are both significant and costly for this program are actually higher than that. So heavy marine construction is a higher item than that 58% increase. So move on to the next slide. So just want to highlight what funds we have available. The top 2 lines here as federal grant funding. That is, MEGA is a flexible grant source, that's $600 million. The Bridge Investment Grant Program is $1.5 billion. Those are items that we are looking to fully obligate by the end of September. There's $546 million of the BIP grant that is actually scheduled to disappear if we do not obligate it by the end of September. So we are continuing our dialogue with the federal government to get that done. It's a very close focus of the program. We do have $1 billion from each state, so those are the next 3 lines here that you see. Some previous state funding and a projected toll funding amount of $1.5 billion. So that $5.6 billion is what we have been working to balance to so we can advance to construction. I do also want to highlight, and I'll turn it over to Paige on the next slide, that we are continuing to look for that capital investment grant program, so that's $1 billion. We don't have it in hand yet, so we can't use it for mapping construction at this time. Go ahead. Next slide.
So we have identified a core set of projects that we are going to move forward with this initial phase, including the Columbia River Bridge, the connections to those bridges on the I-5, light rail to Vancouver, and existing bridge removal. This is all related to the available funding that Carly presented prior to this, and allows the light rail system to, the light rail or the freeway system to continue to function. Next slide. So the scope of work starts with Portland being on the left side of this image and Vancouver being on the right in Washington, with the Columbia River going down the middle. At the Expo Center, there are some changes to circulation for that facility, as well as modifications to the station. For Marine Drive, we have to make some changes there for the light rail to extend and go underneath that bridge and onto its own bridge across the Portland Harbor. So that's a light rail only structure at this point to Hayden Island, where we will have a light rail station. And that light rail only structure continues shortly after Hayden Island, combines with the main bridge span, where the light rail will be on top of that and extend into its own structure and light rail station at Waterfront in Vancouver. And we remain committed to the bigger program, but this is the portion for this share. I have a coming slide to talk about the bridge, so we'll cover that when we get there. So next slide. So we had some cost-saving opportunities. We combined that main bridge span with the approaches next to that. That gives us some decrease in coordination between those contracts, which allowed us to decrease the overall program cost. There was also an examination of our toll funding and using the existing toll rates, and then we were able to find more resources and more funding available for that. And we also added the bridge demolition to that construction package. Next slide. So this focuses on that first phase of which we'll be building. That shows the Columbia River Bridge, which is 2 separate spans. The top of the page on the west side of the river, or the west side of the bridge, is the southbound, and the bottom is the northbound. The southbound, or top of it, includes the space for light rail, and it has light rail going in both directions on that bridge span. The lower section includes space for the bike and pedestrians, a multi-use path there. And that also goes in both directions on the northbound structure. We have connections at Hayden Island to I-5 and the freeway there on the left side of the page, and on the right side, you'll see connections to SR-14. And the last part is the red stripe that you'll see is the demolition of the existing bridge is included in that initial contract. Next slide. So what's next? So we talked about what's in the funded phase, and we take that work and the financial information and connect those funds to the scope of work in our financial plan. And this funded phase operates independently while it's able to expand in the future phases of the project. Next slide. So next steps for light rail. We build the replacement bridge. We include the space for light rail in the future. And then we continue to pursue that $1 billion in funding. So an important part that I forgot to mention is that the funding in this phase includes continuing light rail design and progressing that. And so we're going to continue to progress our design, do the work we need to do to get that, qualify for that capital investment grant from the Federal Transit Administration, and move into the next phase of the program, ideally apply for that in September and move into that later this fall. And next slide. So again, going for the FFGA, the full funding grant agreement with the feds, and targeting construction in 2030 to 2036. So that has a revenue service date around 2036, which is 21 years after our Orange Line opening in 2015. Next slide.
So I just note that first funded phase, so we talked about the money that we had, $5.69 billion, and the cost of that first funded phase is estimated at $5.68 billion. So there's not very much wiggle room there, but we are excited to be able to advance to construction. The way that we're doing that, Washington State Department of Transportation is going to be the contracting agency for this first contract. They have some significant experience both with progressive design build, which is the mechanism we'll be using here, and also some very large-scale project deliveries you've probably heard about from the Puget Sound with some of the projects up there. So we're building on some of that expertise here, and also national expertise on progressive design build, because it is a model that is newer across the country. The estimated cost for that contract is $3.3 billion to $3.9 billion. That's the contract value there. There's certainly other work. Obviously, that's how the $5.68 billion gets out to that figure. Noted the timeline here, the qualifications and proposals coming in this year or being issued this year. And again, targeting that selection of a contractor in 2027 and still targeting construction in 2028. Next slide. So we've talked about the scope here, and I think Paige did a good job of highlighting the bike ped and the transit space on the bridge itself. So the first funded phase, really, we were looking for two things. We've always needed to start building the bridge across the river to build this program and to try to maintain the multimodal commitment that's always been at the core of this program, so making sure that it has space for light rail. If it doesn't have that space, I don't imagine you would ever get light rail into Vancouver. Next slide. Also important to note, I did mention tolling, but we do have some tolling infrastructure that will need to be installed. So that's physical things to hold signs and boxes for electronics. So that work is anticipated later this year to be advertised at a 20 to 24 million contract value. There will be, notification as that stuff comes forward as we're looking for any kind of installation activities. There is a fair amount of upfront anticipated procurement timeframe that we're going to, just to get all the goods that they need to actually install those. They have long lead times for ordering. Next slide. And as Paige mentioned, there are funds in that first $5.68 billion of work to maintain our work progression on transit design to the waterfront station. That is essential to the CIG process. So excited to have that included. It's very critical, and anticipating advertisement in 2027. Next slide. Finally, just sort of where we're going. We do have that financial plan approved by the federal government. We got through a bevy of getting onto the Transportation Improvement Program lists around the region here. We are working to transition to delivery within the office. The office has been a planning type office and environmental expertise type group. So we're adding that construction capacity alongside of that. So really building on national expertise and WashDOT's expertise to build out that arm. And then just looking at how the team is organized. Finally, I do want to make sure that I flag that there is a land use final order. That's what LUFO stands for on the bottom of the slides. Right. I understand, it is an artifact of some very smart folks, I think at TriMet long ago and back in the day, recognizing the longitudinal activities that occur for transit design line development and the importance of having consistency among land use actions when your jurisdictions change. So this process will actually be an update from, I think, the north-south LUFO maybe originally, and then also an updated LUFO that we had. So it's all of an update from that very original body of work. And so this is for a pretty short section. Obviously, it's just expo to the river itself, because this is an Oregon-specific process. But we are looking to, the process involves convening a steering committee, which will include General Manager DeSue and other parties from those relevant jurisdictions. That meeting is happening in mid-August, I think maybe the 12th. And then there is a board meeting for you folks for an approval step in September, and then Metro Council, who does that final approval in November. So I think it's a recommendation here and then an approval with Metro Council. So we'll be bringing forward more information, and you'll get more comfortable saying LUFO and understanding what it means.
Another acronym.
Yes, plenty of acronyms. I think that might be the last slide. And so happy to answer any questions if you have them. Appreciate the time today.
And I just want to add one last thing, Chair Lewis. I know last time we were here, you mentioned your interest in right-of-way and property, and we've noted that, and we'll keep tracking that as a future topic that we know is important to you.
Thank you.
And all of us.
Yeah, it's important.
Checking with our virtual over there. Director
Director
Frisbee?
Frisbee's got to have a question.
Yeah. Director
That's
Frisbee,
fair.
you're on. Okay.
Thank you, team, for coming today. Appreciate your time. And I hate to call a project a slog, but I think it would be inaccurate to call this project anything but a 30-year slog at this point. So appreciate every day that you put one foot in front of the other. I was hoping, I appreciate the work you've done, given the new cost estimates and figuring out how to move forward. This is always a really challenging dynamic. It is incredibly critical, not only to TriMet, obviously, but to our partners here in Oregon, that we use this opportunity to create multimodal connections across the river. I think it's an integral part of the economic development plan for both Portland and the city of Vancouver. There has been a lot of consternation about the phased approach, particularly from the light rail perspective, and the how we are going to be able to make sure we're maximizing ridership and utility. How do we make sure that if we're building a light rail line, it serves as many people as possible? I'm just wondering if you can speak briefly to the commitment and the longer term approach to extending the light rail line so that we can make sure we're serving some of the folks who we know are the most interested in using it.
Thank you, Director Frisbee, for the question. Yes, I mean, the commitment does stand from the states to get what we're specifically talking about for folks who are new tuning into this on this particular nuance. This is, I think, largely the question of getting to Waterfront Station, which is the first station in Vancouver, versus getting to Evergreen. Getting to Evergreen is a combined activity of highway and transit investments. So that is part of what makes it particularly complicated, and with the limited funds right now, really just trying to get started in the right way and then figure out how to build that over time. We do anticipate a conversation with our partners this fall to talk about, just make sure that we are looking at the most cost-effective way to get from Waterfront to Evergreen. There's some kind of questions as you look at that combined activity. Folks are kind of wondering, is that the best way? So we are going to revisit that conversation and make sure we have the best concept going forward. And also just to note that there are ways to build one, we do need additional funds for transit flat out to get an operational line just to Waterfront. But recognizing that there are ways to build some flexibility into the CMGC contract that we're anticipating TriMet to be letting for this program, so that we have an opportunity to sort of add that design in if the funding is available. So not a commitment up front, but knowing you can sort of have that add-in option on the side. There are ways within the FTA process that we could certainly build that back in if, again, the funds are sort of available to build it in. I would also note that it's important, I know it's not FTA doing the calculations, but we have done internal calculations about the competitiveness of getting to Waterfront Station within the FTA construct. It does look solid from a competitiveness standpoint. And also, we think there's independent competitiveness of getting to the Evergreen Station. So we have taken a look to try to understand, given FTA current rules, like, does it look feasible to continue considering that as an option in the future? So I think we're just trying to keep open to all options, recognizing that I think the cost estimate update sent everybody reeling. And it would have been great if we'd been able to start this earlier. And I agree, Director Frisbee, that a slog is a perfectly fine way to reference it for a project that's been under consideration since the late 90s. So, yes.
Thank you. And I'm glad to know we're looking at potential other ways to extend transit out to Evergreen and maybe some different paths. So appreciated that. And glad we looked at its utility as a standalone, because it would be a real bummer to have that limited in the future. So thank you.
Yep, trying to pay attention to all options.
Thank you, Director Frisbee. Seeing another? Okay. All right. Back to Sam. Okay.
No, thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Carly and Paige, for being out. And I'm sure we're going to have you back in the future as we continue to move forward. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the much work you have done. I won't say slog, but yeah, it's been okay. And
Every
thank-
project is a joyful expression of optimism.
Yes, yes, totally
Sense of
agree. Thank you. Okay, I think that is it for our day. That concludes our briefing time. Thank you to everyone who is still here, still listening, still engaging in the work that TriMet Board has done. And enjoy the August break. We will see you here in 30 days or so. Thank you.